He is. That couldn't be a lot tighter, could it? At the head of the field, Alexander Novikov, who was third last time we checked on him, is out braking himself now at turn 10 and possibly hampering his lap time. He was on a decent lap, but we think that little mistake might have cost him a bit of time. Yeah, that track temperature, interesting actually, David. It's gone up by 1 degree already since the start of the session. Of course, qualifying last week took place at the break of dawn, basically, didn't it? It was very early start, cold track temperature, and that meant that the lap times really got a lot better as the qualifying sessions went on. It was the very final laps in the 15-minute session that ultimately were the fastest, but tonight with this slightly higher track temperature, that might not be the case. We've got 6 minutes left on the clock then. It's Lozanov fastest at the moment by 9 thousandths over Errol Verwy second, Felix Rupert is third, Josh Inman fourth, with Regan Mitchell fifth and Alexander Novikov in sixth position. So Rupert and Lozanov then, well, where is, Lozanov on pole, Rupert third, so they're not quite tied at the hip at this stage, but still nearly 6 minutes of the session to go.
And that's a great point about the track and the evolution of the conditions here, is that it plays in such a role with the strategy, as we've got a car facing the wrong way. Let's start finish straight there. Simon Wilkes then for SimSport Racing goes cross line P10, 1.1 second behind Lozanov, so he'll be happy to get in the top 10 with that. But again, I don't think that's going to last very, very long indeed. Gerhard Volzer in the 417 Porsche. Look at the amount of curb that he takes on that. He certainly doesn't have any fear in that one. Around the corner, he's about 2-3 tenths up just now. That would actually be strong enough to take him up to P7 if he comes across the line. P8 for Volzer there, loses a little bit of time coming out that final corner. So Andy, 5 minutes left to go in qualifying, and you get the feeling that the tension is building quite dramatically.
Yes, and in fact it has already... Oh, we've got another car off. I was about to say Carlo Barberi's been off the road. There was another car spinning there in the background, just behind our provisional pole sitter, Christian Lozanov then. The man that's second place in the championship then really wants to try and get one over on Felix Rupert in this race. He's on another lap now, having been in the pit lane, and is trying to extend this margin that he's got over Errol Verwy in second. Novikov into the pit lane, you can see with the little P graphic next to his time on the left-hand side of your screen. A number of drivers using this midpoint of the session to head in and change tyres, because I'd imagine this higher track temperature is going to make the tyre management situation a little bit more of a challenge, because these cars are going to slide around quite a lot. They've not got much aero, but they're still pretty powerful, so looking after those rear tyres, David, over a 30-minute race in particular, ain't going to be easy.
No, and that's one of the fantastic challenges that these drivers have got in front of them. Obviously a very, very different car from what they had last time, and there you go, Gareth Mills showing exactly what I was talking about. Snap oversteer and bang, you're dead. Right, I've got to be honest, with how dramatic this qualifying session is, Andy, this is going to be a very, very scary race this evening.
I was just thinking exactly the same thing. I've seen 5 make that 6 cars now pointing the wrong way in this qualifying session, and we're not even racing yet, so imagine nearly 30 of these things heading through the first sequence of corners on cold-ish tyres on lap 1 in close proximity to each other. That could get very lively indeed. Now, Philip Babalol, he was in the pit lane, remember, before he'd even set a lap time. He is now out on track. He's 20th at the moment and now jumps back into the top 10. That's where he should be, really. Had top 10 pace just about, at least, a week ago in the Lamborghinis. That knocks David Jr. out of the top 10. Simon Wilkes was in the top 10 earlier on. He's been demoted down to 13th place, but here is Felix Rupert. He's banged a new set of tyres on the car. He's going quickly. Is it quick enough for pole position? It is not, but he does halve the gap now. He was 2.5 tenths away from pole position before. He's now 0.12 of a second off. Thomas Ehrentraut there runs wide, going out of the left-hander at Barbecue. A decent effort that for Rupert, but not quite enough to trouble those front row men.
Yeah, and that's exactly it, but he'll have the confidence knowing that he's got the momentum, he's already brought his deltas down. It'll be a case of finding that 1 or 2 tenths, and the track is only going to get faster as we go round. Here's Dave Jr. for SRHI Esports team in that number 10 Porsche, just coming down towards the second half of the circuit here. In fact, no, sorry, that's into the final corner, isn't it? So Dave Jr., oh, that looks a little bit wobbly coming out of that final corner. And look, this is exactly what I was saying. Every single moment you're seeing here is from these drivers not respecting these cars. They're too heavy, too firm on the accelerator pedal, and the rear end just wants to step out. They try and catch it, and before they can catch it, the thing gets into grip and just fires them off to their nearest wall.
Yes, because I think I'm right in saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no traction control in these cars, is there? And I don't think they've got ABS, or certainly limited ABS, but no traction control at all. So very easy to do exactly what Felix Rupert did there and light up those rear tyres, because you're chasing hundredths of a second here in many cases just to try and find a couple more tenths of a second. And he was on a lap there, I believe, that could have been good enough for pole position, was Felix Rupert, but that little moment that he had unfortunately means he's had to bail, and he will have time now for just one more lap. Carlo Barberi, meanwhile, back out on the circuit now after that issue that he had earlier on. 17th place for Carlo Barberi, who showed flashes of pace a week ago, ended up 14th in the points after the first two races, and he now jumps into the top 10, 9th fastest there, and again he will have time for one more attempt.
That's why it's so important to be clean and consistent on these laps here, as Novikov coming round the final corner there. We'll see what Novikov can do across the line just now. I think he's a couple of tenths up at the moment. Yep, 2 tenths up, and that gets him up into 4th place. But Andy, a mistake early on in the lap here costs you massively. So obviously for those watching at home, they maybe see a driver losing 2 tenths of a second and they think, oh, that's not that much. But then if that's at the first half of the circuit, that 2 tenths becomes 3 tenths, becomes 4 tenths, because you've lost all of that momentum, as we've got another car facing the wrong way at the just before pit lane. But it's so easy to completely ruin a lap only 3 or 4 corners into this lap here.
Yes, it really is. Or indeed, a couple of corners from the end of the lap, as Christian Lozanov just did. He was on a time that could have seen him improve on his provisional pole time, and then he ran wide coming out of the penultimate corner at Cheetah, exceeded track limits, and the time was disallowed. Now, Felix Rupert is on a lap that is 4 tenths better than his previous best. He's got traffic at the worst possible moment. Let's hope that didn't cost him too much time, because this might still be enough for Felix Rupert to steal the pole position. How much will Lozanov regret having that lap time disallowed right at the death? Rupert crosses the line and does it by nearly 2 tenths of a second. Felix Rupert to pole position. Lozanov second, Verwe is third. Regan Mitchell was sixth, but I think invalidated the lap coming out of the final corner. Carlo Barberi jumps to 7th right at the end, so a real flurry of activity here towards the end of the session. Still though, one more quick driver to go, except Novikov's made a mess of it through the penultimate corner and will not improve. Felix Rupert then, that could be, David, a really pivotal moment in this championship, because Lozanov was on a good lap, he was going to improve his time, invalidated the lap, and that then left, easy for me to say, an open goal for Felix Rupert, and he wasted no time in snatching that pole position away.
Yeah, and that is absolutely pivotal for the race itself. However, we're going to have to wait and see how it pans out into the race as well, because great lap there from Rob Taplin taking 9th place there. But again, it's all about that run down to the first corner here at Kyalami. That's what's going to be so important. And yeah, look, I've got to be honest, Felix Rupert has a massive target on his back. Christian Lozanov has shown tonight he's definitely got the pace, but so does Earl Verwe and Novikov.
Yeah, there are quite a few of them, aren't there, that are pretty close to each other on pace. There is the grid then for our first race in the Porsche Cup car. Felix Rupert with the pole position just, well actually by nearly 2 tenths of a second in the end over Christian Lozanov second. Errol Verwe gets bumped off the front row right at the end of the session. Alexander Novikov will be alongside him on row 2. Josh Inman and Regan Mitchell will make up the 3rd row ahead of Carlo Barberi and Harry Phillips, with Rob Taplin jumping into the top 10 there right at the end ahead of Gerhard Walzer. Philip Babalol will be 11th ahead of Ian Harvey, then Dominic Fouquet and Dave Jr. on row 7. Thomas Ehrentraut, after that grassy moment, ends up 15th ahead of Simon Wilkes, Scott Ticehurst and Gareth Mills in 18th place. And that's only really the top half of the grid. It's going to be a busy track when this race gets underway. and Felix Rupert gets himself pole position. Now, that doesn't earn him any points, of course. He's not actually done any damage yet to Christian Lozanov in the championship, but Lozanov really wants to try and beat Rupert in this race. He is, remember, 6 points behind Rupert. There is an 8-point swing between finishing first or second in these races. You get 50 points for a victory and 42 for second. So, assuming they finish 1-2 in this race, which is one heck of an assumption to make, I realise, but if they did, and Lozanov were to beat Rupert, he would take the championship lead away. But of course, Rupert has got himself that track position. And whilst I agree with you, David, that it's only part of the job done here for Rupert. He's still got to get off the line. He's still got to get into that first corner first. But I do think that if he can do that, if he can get his head down on that first lap or so, it might not be that easy to overtake around here in these cars, because they're on such a knife edge that it's going to be a bit tricky, I think, to really go for one of those do-or-die manoeuvres. So getting into that first corner first is certainly going to take one of these drivers a long way towards winning this race, I think.
Yeah, two things I would say to that. One is the key word there being if, playing such a core part tonight. But the other thing is that we know both Lozanov, Verwey and Novikov have got, that one lap sprint pace to get that job done. However, if they can stay on the tail of Rupert, fair enough, they may not be able to make the move stick. But again, we've seen what can happen. We've seen the intensity, the mind games that go on. And with how precarious these cars are, Andy, I think that drivers putting pressure on the car in front are in a very, very strong position.
Speaking of strong positions, a shout out to Josh Inman, because Josh qualified 5th there and he had a best finish last week of 17th in race 1. So Josh, perhaps one of those drivers who's pretty happy now to be back in something with the engine at the rear of the car rather than the mid-engine Lamborghinis we were in a week ago, and he will be definitely keen to try and take advantage of that. On the flip side of that, Rob Taplin, who was 5th in the points after last week's races, only 9th on the grid. So we are seeing some varying fortunes here between drivers, some that clearly get on with these cars better than others. Maybe they were able to just bank a quicker lap time there. We could well, of course, see people move forward over the course of what will be a 30-minute race. So a long race, lots of opportunities to try and make your way through the field, lots of opportunities for people to make mistakes, of course, and we mentioned it before, tyre wear will be difficult. 26 degrees now, that track temperature, and as we move further through the morning now in Sim, it's just gone 10 o'clock in the morning at the virtual Kyle Army circuit, that temperature is just going to keep on creeping up, and that will make the drivers' jobs a lot harder, because we've seen, haven't we, David, these cars are already lethal as soon as you so much as look at the right pedal. When those rear tyres start to overheat and wear out, that's going to be even more of a challenge.
Don't know about you, but I'm quite excited about that. On that note, it does add a very, very interesting thought onto that, though, because, how far do these drivers want to push? Do they want to drive at maybe, say, 90-95% and try and think about that tyre life? Or do they want to just gun it and just absolutely push that thing to everything that it's got, knowing that within the last 5 minutes or so they could seriously suffer with them? It's going to be an awesome race nonetheless. 30 minutes here at Kyalami. Look at that wonderful circuit. It's such an impressive venue. It's such an old school looking venue. It's like when you were a kid and you get Skeletrix out. That's the sort of track that you would try and make with it. But yeah, awesome night tonight. I mean, it's a brilliant series, the idea of having different cars in the championship, and really, I think it really exposes how good some of these drivers are.
Yeah, and only having 2 of the 5 races in GT3 cars I like as well, because that's kind of the class that gets the most love on Assetto Corsa Competizione. Understandably, it's the pinnacle, it's the top class of car represented in the sim. But consequently, I think drivers maybe end up spending a lot more time in those GT3 cars than they do in the Cup cars, both the Porsche and the Lamborghini Super Trofeo car, or the GT4s as well, which of course are a newer addition to the sim as well, comparatively speaking. So it's nice to almost force them into driving cars that they haven't got as much seat time in, and that is certainly contributing to the unpredictability of this series, I think. And then, as we've said, you throw in a track that doesn't get used quite as often as some others, and it is guaranteed drama and excitement. Now, Green flag lap getting underway then, cars making their way out onto the circuit ahead of the start of round number 3 of the Kyalami Mini Series, and there is the view from the virtual starting gantry of the field of cars making their way down into that first corner. It's a long run, isn't it, into that first turn as well, David, which last week did present a little bit of drama, didn't it, because it gives drivers that are on, say, rows 2 or 3 of the grid quite a lot of time to get a run on those ahead of them, and Felix Rupert actually was one of those drivers, wasn't he, on his toes a week ago, able to gain ground into turn 1.
He certainly was, and again, it's that key word, momentum. It's all about being able to bring out your speed out of that final corner and just absolutely gun it down the track there. Now, I'm just also noticing that we've got someone that hasn't started. That's Tom Nicholas in the 27, who appears to be just sitting stationary, so we'll get an idea on what's happening there. Andy, I'm going to give you a little bit of an insight here and a little bit of sneaky inside knowledge, and for those watching at home, I've got a little tip for tonight. It's one to watch. I don't know if they're going to win specifically, but I watched them in another race that I was commentating on the weekend, and by far it was one of the most exciting stints that I have ever seen in sim racing. The talent that this young man displayed is just off the chart. It's 6th place, number 69, Regan Mitchell. I did mention him very, very briefly, but I was commentating on a race on Saturday that I saw him in. And my goodness me, the moves and the pace and the confidence that he has was just absolutely absurd. So I'm expecting big things from him.
Yes, and had a good battle with Errol Verwey a week ago as well, didn't he? As Michael Hamlet has just reminded me, I must say, in the Super Trofeo race, which of course I also had remembered, but Michael just tipping me off about that one as well. But yes, David, you've just committed the cardinal sin of commentary, though, because you've just said good things about a driver before the race has even started. So one of two things will now happen. Either Regan Mitchell will live up to this billing and charge through the order and win the race, or he'll end up in the gravel trap at turn 1. So we shall see which of those two fates befalls him, but he will be one to watch, I agree. 3rd in the championship, remember, as well as Regan, after finishing 2nd in the second race a week ago. So yeah, not a bad shout, that. 2 by 2 then, they come through the final few corners. Christian Lozanov there, the red car, not on pole position this time. He was on pole position for our first race a week ago. He won that race from Felix Rupert, who came through from the second row of the grid, elbowed his way into second place at turn 1 and sort of stayed there to the flag. This time, though, the top 2 in the championship are together on the front row, with just 3 races left now in this Kyalami Mini Series, the first of 2 tonight before the GT3 race, the longer GT3 race in a week's time to settle it all. Very wide line there being taken by Lozanov out of the final corner, but they do now present themselves to the start-finish line when the red lights go out. We're away and racing for 30 minutes here. Round number 3 of the Kyalami Mini Series from the Kyalami circuit in South Africa is underway now as they pass under the starting gantry and up towards turn 1 they go. The green flags are flying. Who has reacted best there to the rolling start? The inside line for Rupert, the outside line for Lozanov. Keep an eye on some of the drivers further back to try and make moves as well. Lozanov tries to hang it tough around the outside and gets his nose ahead, but he's on the dirty side of the road. If he makes that one work, that could be really significant, and he might just do it. On the inside line through turn 2, Christian Lozanov has got the lead away from Felix Rupert, with Verwey in 3rd position still. What a start that was from Lozanov. David, I didn't expect him to find the grip there around the outside, but he did, and it really paid dividends.
He's not the only one. That outside line seems to have paid off dividends for all of the cars that were in it, because we saw Lozanov jumping up into 1st. I think we've got 3rd place for on 4th, and we had Regan Mitchell up into, I think he moved up into 5th place, but Babilal having a bit of a moment there. A couple of cars involved in that. You've got, let's see who else is up there, Taplin involved in that one as well. So yeah, not what you want to see, but again, very, very calm given the amount of cars starting.
Yes, it was almost guaranteed there'd be some contact, wasn't it? Tom Nicholas, I believe, was also delayed in that in the 27. You can see on the mini-map that he's a long way adrift. And Rob Taplin, 5th in the championship, did not need contact on the opening lap. That might just be his championship hopes gone already, although we still have 28.5 minutes of this third round of the Kyle Army mini-series to go. More chaos as they go into the crocodiles. Harry Phillips, I think that was involved, and is, plummeting down the order, and shame for another driver that had qualified pretty well, and someone else was just bouncing across the grass on the exit of the corner. So Harry Phillips then, who was 11th in the championship, so maybe also could have still made something of this season had he had slightly better fortune in this race, but he's got to do that now from the back of the grid. Lap 1 in the books then. Lozanov leads the way, Rupert second, Verby third, and actually at this stage, David, Rupert looks as though he's not really going after Lozanov. Instead, he's starting to watch his mirrors, feeling the pressure maybe from Errol Verby in third.
Yeah, Berwick's looking very, very dangerous right now, and Rupert, I mean, this is possibly huge for the championship if he allows Lozanov to streak away here, as we see side by side Denise Pope making the move. I think that's Seder and that in the 420 that just got past there. Pierre Stone and Tom Nicholas, sorry, not Tom Nicholas, it was Armando Sanchez and Pierre Stone having a huge moment at the final corner there. There's Philip Babalal off again. Safe to say these Porsches not really working out for Philip tonight.
Yes, he might not be on his way down to the Porsche dealership in the morning. I don't think he's really getting on with this car, is he, tonight? But another race to go in the Cayman, which actually presents a very different driving challenge, as we'll get into a little bit later on in the night, so maybe he can bounce back in that one. Regan Mitchell then, 6th place in the SimSport racing car, as he dives his way down through the mine shaft into the braking zone at the Crocodiles. So further back, there is plenty of side-by-side action, though. Dominic Fekete there trying to get up the inside of Scott Ticehurst, and he's done it, but the next corner is a right-hander. Ticehurst has the inside line, but well, it appears in these cars you can pick any line you want, really. As long as you can get that power down and get the traction off the corner, you can simply drive around the outside of people. And in fairness here to Scott Ticehurst, he's leaving Dominic Fekete an awful lot of room. Eventually Dominic gets the inside line for the final turn. Is he going to repay the favour? No, he eases Ticehurst out wide. You see, that's what happens if you're too polite, because if you give another driver an inch, they will take a mile. Fekete ran him wide there going out of the final corner, and now has to try and defend from the green machine going into the first turn. Drama, though, I'm hearing a little bit further up the road, possibly for Errol Verby, David.
Yes, certainly is. Verby goes wide and goes off the track. That allows Novikov to take third place from him, so Verby falls down and falls into the clutches of Inman in 5th place there. So again, this is going from bad to worse for the championship, because Verby, as you remember, was in 4th place in the championship. He needed to make inroads tonight to have a challenge on the championship, but to this battle for 12th and 13th place, this is incredible. Dominic Fekete there, how he managed to pull it round the outside, and fair play to Scott Ticehurst there for giving him the respect, giving him the racing room to make that move work if he was brave enough, and my goodness me, was he brave enough.
Yes, he was, and look, he's reaping rewards now as he starts to get away from that group of cars behind him. On board with Regan Mitchell then, 6th place in the race is Regan. Now, he is 3rd in the championship. He really ought to be on the pace of Rupert and Lozanov at the head of the field, but that's not really happening right now. He's stuck in traffic. Josh Inman's still the driver ahead of us after that brilliant qualifying effort, and Josh, in fairness, showing that it was no fluke, because he's holding his position quite nicely here in 5th. Little bit of a gap that's developed ahead of him to Novikov and Verby, 3rd and 4th respectively, but Josh Inman not overly defensive. It doesn't look like he's out of position here at all in P5, running strongly in the early stages. Rupert, meanwhile, is lapping a bit quicker now than Lozanov, so Felix possibly just taking a bit longer to get into the swing of things in this race, but the gap was up to about 8 tenths, then it was 7 tenths, now it's 6 tenths, so expect a challenge for the lead possibly before too much longer.
I think that's very much the case. There's very much going to be happening very, very shortly, because Rupert is looking very, very fast indeed. That gap down to 6 tenths of a second, and again, it comes down to that question you asked earlier, Andy. It's one thing catching up, but is Rupert going to be able to get past Lozanov for that race lead? So we see Rob Taplin here making his way round the circuit there through turn 1, trying to get that car recovered. I mean, that's down in 24th place. That's been a bit of a miserable start for Rob, but again, we see just how difficult these cars are to handle here.
Yeah, top 20 finishers, by the way, in each race score points, but only 1 point for 20th, 2 for 19th. So you need to be getting well into the top 10, really, to be scoring big points. And for Rob, 5th in the points coming into this race, that is essential, really. Errol Ver, we were seeing 4th in the championship, making mistakes. And Patrick Nage, who is 6th in the championship, isn't even racing tonight. So we are going to see a bit of a shuffle of the points order, I think, after this race. But one thing is fairly consistent, and that is that if you look at the front of the field, you ought to find Christian Lozanov and Felix Rupert. Neither of them have finished worse than 3rd so far in this season, and they're running 1-2 once again. Now, Rupert has been catching the leader, but as David said, it might be a little bit harder to find a way through. This is what happened on the opening lap, though, going up through the top of the hill there, through Barbecue for the first time. They then head down towards Sunset, and this is what befell Rob Taplin, I believe, and Babylon there, who you can see in the 787 car, and he just gets into the side of Taplin. And that was avoidable, I think is the word I'll go for there, David.
I think I'll go for optimistic. It's never going to happen. And Rob Taplin must be absolutely raging right now if that was me. But yeah, it is what it is. I tell you what, Felix Rupert is actually starting to lose that gap now to Lozanov now. That's up to 0.8 of a second. As we see Volzer try to go around the outside in another optimistic move here with the number 55 of Barberi. A little bit of contact there. This is starting to get a bit predictable between these two. A little bit of fighting, a little bit of argy-bargy. It's not really the car of choice to be doing that sort of stuff in.
No, it looks twitchy enough without then getting an assistance from another driver as well. This is another replay of some of the earlier incidents that we had. The number 19 car here we're following as it goes into the final corner, and in trying to defend its position ends up running into the back of the car in front. That was Mike Landreth in the 19 who was accosting a couple of other drivers there going into the final turn. We may well see a few penalties on their way for driving standards before much longer. We'll keep abreast of all of that as and when Race Control makes its decisions. This battle continues to rage though, for 7th place. Carlo Barberi still ahead of Gerhard Volzer. Not for the want of trying though. Volzer is all over him, but he too now is starting to look a little bit ragged. I tend to agree with you here, David. At some point this will come to a head. There'll either be contact or one of them will make a definitive mistake that will settle it, because they just keep pushing each other closer and closer to the edge.
I don't think it has to be one or the other. I think it's going to be both, as we see the number 9 having a little bit of a moment around the back of the corner here. Let's see, this is the 222, 2 wheels on the grass. That is, ouch, that is going to be a repair bill and a half for the front end of that machine. Look, this is the problem, is the fact that it's fine trying to do qualifying laps where you're pushing things, and if it doesn't go wrong, that's it. But if it goes wrong here with that extra fuel load that you've got on here, you've got a grippier track, the car's going to handle completely differently. It's much hotter on the track as well. I mean, these things are literally so difficult to keep in a straight line. It really does amaze me here. This is the number 9 completely losing it on their own here. This is further up with the 21 and 787. A little bit of contact there for the 21. That's Andres Afirtos. Yeah, that move was never going to work, and you can see the remnants of Pierre Stone having a huge hit into the wall there. And yeah, I don't think he's going to have his no claims bonus after that one, Andy.
I also don't think Philip Babylon will have a particularly long Christmas card list this year, because that is another driver that he's had contact with now as he tries to work his way back up the field. And of course, it's not worked because he's still 32nd and last after his various issues. So not really making friends is Philip Babylon. Oh dear, now what's happened? Well, this is 3 wide going into turn 1, which ain't going to work, and it looks like the 214 car might be about to make it 4 wide, and indeed they do. Oh, Babylon's in this one as well. Oh no, Babylon into the side of the 19 of Mike Landreth. That's Landreth's second moment of the race as well. Oh dear, oh dear. It is always the same people, isn't it? And this is very easy to do, David, when it's not your day and things aren't going right and you've had a couple of moments. The temptation is just to throw caution to the wind and just get stuck in and try and dig your way out of the hole. But in cars like these, You just can't do that. You can't grab these cars by the scruff of the neck and just force a result out of them, force speed out of them. You've got to try and be a little bit more gentle, and that perhaps is what Regan Mitchell is doing, because he has finally found a way past Josh Inman now for 5th.
Yeah, great move there from Regan. You can see there that he's a couple of seconds now off the back of Verway. Hopefully he's got the pace that now he's been unleashed to get that. He might be able to catch up to the back there. But again, Felix Rupert now falling into the clutches of Novikov. Novikov starting to bring that gap down very, very slightly. We've got a penalty coming in, cars 19 and 114. It's a drive through to car 19 for avoidable contact. So that is Mike Landreth there, and that'll likely be what we saw in that replay there.
Yes, it will be. Yes, because Landreth was indeed a part of that. So Landreth then with the penalty this time around. Big moment there for Barberi. That's maybe a suggestion of this mistake that we both kind of predict is incoming from one of these two drivers, because they won't leave each other alone. They're both getting closer and closer to that knife edge that these cars are constantly balanced on. And just to prove the point, Walzer now has a moment of his own. They're also being caught actually by Thomas Ehrentraut in 9th position. You can just see him there in the white and purple car just flashing through in 9th position. He's only just over a second behind them now, with David Jr. rounding out the top 10. We've got another spin now. Harry Phillips again. Isn't that the second time he's been off at that corner as well, David? Harry, another driver having a bit of a race to forget here.
Yeah, look, this is going to be the theme for the night here, because as these tyres start overheating and start getting sticky and slidey, the patience just runs out with these drivers. They forget just how gentle and delicate they have to be with the throttle on these cup cars. And you've seen so many times how often it'll be a little slide like that, and then they'll try and catch it instinctively, and instead the car goes nope and just throws them off into the wall instead. And look, we've seen plenty of them so far, and with another 15 minutes left to go, yeah, we're going to see a ton more.
Yeah, because the problem is these cars, as we've documented, no traction control, high track temperature, therefore high level of rear tyre wear. Oh, and by the way, all of the weight in these cars is hanging over that rear axle. So when you do get a bit of a tail slide like that, and you correct it, the pendulum starts swinging. All of that weight transfers from one side to the other across the back axle, and it just swaps ends on you in a heartbeat. And it's what makes these cars so difficult to drive. But it's also why Porsche Cup racing in both the real and the sim world continues to breed top-level drivers, because if you can handle one of these at speed, then you can handle most racing cars. And I think it's fair to say, isn't it, David, that a lot of these drivers perhaps get spoilt by racing these GT3 cars week in, week out. Sticking them in a car like this with limited downforce, no grip at the back of the car, it's a real test, and it does show that the cream continues to rise to the top.
Certainly does. You know, I would absolutely love it. We need to get Harry King onto to sim racing. He would be absolutely incredible, I think, with his skill. Multiple incidents on laps 1 and 2, and I tell you what, this is a first. I have never seen this on the sim grid before. So sit down, ladies and gentlemen. Philip Babalal gets a qualifying ban. So because of the amount of incidents that he was involved in laps 1 and 2, he is now banned from qualifying, which means he will start from the back of the grid, as well as retiring from this race, because Philip has retired about 6 laps ago.
Yes, and so they can't give him a drive-through penalty, of course, because he's not in the race to serve it. So in lieu of that, they've decided to give him a penalty that follows on into the next race, which means he won't be able to qualify, which means he'll start from the back of the grid, which means he'll be even more frustrated now, and I reckon that might not be the last we see of Philip Babalol, but let's hope he's having a stern word with himself now before the second race of the night gets underway a bit later on. Right, back to some of the battling at the front of the field. Lozanov now has a 1.8 second lead over Rupert in second, who's just over a second ahead of Novikov in third as well. We were just seeing there the fight for 7th and 8th, which is still raging on. But we jump back now to the recovery drive of Rob Taplin. He's back in the points here, David. 19th position, the car seems to be driving okay, actually, considering the amount of hits that it's had, particularly on the front end. He could still gain some more places, and now every place he gains, like that one, which was made quite easy by Denise Pope spinning coming out of the turn 13 there at the Crocodiles, every place he gains now is worth a couple more championship points.
Of course, we know what points make. Championship positions. But with 13 and 3/4 minutes left to go, look, this is so important. This is probably one of the most important rounds in the championship, because the drivers right now are having to work so hard for these points. I mean, look at Lozanov. He's settled into that position quite nicely. We never saw that coming. When we saw Rupert up at the top of the timing tables, we presumed that was going to be a good chance for him to get off into the lead. But not only has that not happened, he's actually fallen behind now, and I can't believe Novikov might be getting a second bite of the cherry here. But with Lozanov and Rupert getting first and third, I think that instantly puts Novikov out of any title contention.
Yes, it probably will, won't it? You're asking me to do maths now, Dave, and that's something that I can't do at the best of times. But yes, I think, if not mathematically, certainly realistically, out of championship contention, even though he's running half decently in this race. Carlo Barberi is also running pretty well, and he's still ahead of Gerhard Walzer, and I'm more surprised almost at the fact that both of these drivers are still on the track, because they have been so leery. Almost every acceleration zone they're getting sideways, and he's never been more than a few car lengths behind the 55 car. He just can't quite prise that door open and find a way through. They're continuing to be caught now by Aaron Trout and Dave Jr. as well. Aaron Trout less than a second behind these two now. Jr. in 10th place is only half a second further back. Into turn 2 they go. Defensive line taken by Barberi. Will that slow him down on the exit? No, he's getting that late braking done and then still getting off the corner better than a slightly sideways Walzer there. So Barberi, despite this constant pressure, so far, touch wood, has not really put a foot wrong.
I want to know what Barberi has done to Walzer, because this is personal. Walzer's like wanting to absolutely thrash him to within an inch of his life here. This is yeah, I'm quite liking this. This is quite enjoyable with just 10 minutes left to go. You do get that feeling. You just know this is going to end up in tears. If not for, I do have the horrible feeling that Barberi is just going to walk away from this. That Walzer is going to go straight into a wall or something like that. But yeah, it's brewing up nicely. But Aaron Trout and, as you said, Junior behind, they're in the money seats right now, because they could quite easily get 8th and 9th out of this.
Oh, well, as we say that, Aaron Trout has a big moment as well, but it would be quicker to tell you who's not having a moment coming out of turn 10. That's been a tricky acceleration zone at the best of times, especially in these cars. Yellow flag at the corner they're coming up to now, I believe. Car 222, I think that is possibly, that has gone off, which would be Pierre Stone. And so, yeah, yellow flags, and indeed a white flag. Now there is Pierre, in fact, just limping back on the track to the left of shot. This lot go through. No overtaking, of course, in the yellow flag zone. Let's ride on board, shall we? Gerhard Walzer, and there's the chance! Finally, the pressure tells. Barberi makes the mistake out of the final corner, and at long last, Gerhard Walzer is into 7th place now. Barberi won't like that. He's going to try and fight back at the first opportunity, I'm sure, and we know he's good on the brakes. He tries to get up the inside at turn 2. Walzer sends it into the left-hander at Crowthorne, just about gets the car woed up, but that is why Walzer was applying that sort of pressure, because eventually, we were saying it all along, weren't we, David? One of them was going to make a mistake, and Walzer was hoping that because he was the one that was applying the pressure, it would be Barberi that had the slip up, and at last he did, and Walzer, now in clean air, will try to march away from this group.
I'll be honest, I'm a little bit disappointed by that. That was a wonderful move by Walzer. I was expecting fisticuffs there, but instead what we got was a textbook masterclass on mind games on your opponent, and Barberi, caught unawares, makes the slip up out the final corner there, and he's going to go backwards now for sure. You can see Aaron Trout trying to catch on to the back, but I think Junior is actually going to leapfrog the pair of them. He's got the pace right now, and I think Junior just trying to wait until Thomas Ehrentraut makes a mistake getting in with Barberi there. But that now releases Gerhard Walzer in that 417 Porsche away to try and catch up with the leading group. And again, it's a tall ask, because that's what at least sort of 2, 3, 4 seconds up the road. But Also, Novikov now. Novikov is actually half a second off the back of Felix Rupert, so this could be huge.
Also good this, side by side into the crocodile, into Cheetah I should say, sorry, and that's Aaron Trout losing out to Dave Jr. for 9th position, so Jr. goes through. Simon Wilkes isn't actually a million miles behind these two either, having been 2 seconds back at the start of the lap, so he's really benefited from some of the shenanigans up the road. But yes, you're right, I'd spotted that a lap or two ago. We're into the final third of the race now, just less than 10 minutes to go. The track temperature is now at 28 degrees, so this is the part of the race where the drivers are really going to have to manage those rear tyres. So, those that went a bit too hard on them maybe in the early stages, this is the point at which they'll start to regret that. And I wonder whether maybe Felix Rupert has done exactly that, because that gap between himself now and the third place car of Novikov is less than half a second. And there it is visually. Look, Novikov is really harrying him now. They're 2.5 seconds off the lead, and look at the way that Rupert's car is sliding around. That car has no tyres underneath it. This should be fairly cut and dry for Novikov. He's just got to time it right. He goes to the outside into Loikop. It won't really be the best of ideas to try and go right around the outside there, but it looks as though he's got Rupert on the ropes now.
It certainly does, and again, this is something that I brought up before the broadcast, before the actual race started in qualifying, is about those mind games, about putting pressure on it. We've seen Rupert struggle when he's pushed to the limits like this, and Novikov in the prime position right now. Good chance to get past, but I mean, look at Lozanov, 3 seconds to the good. He's loving this little battle that's going on just now. A very good evening to everyone that's in the YouTube chat tonight. As always, if you enjoy what you're seeing here on the Sim Grid, if you want to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button and hit that notification bell as well, we would very, very much like it. Keeps you up to date with everything we're doing here, and if you do want to take part in some of the championships that we do here, head over to thesimgrid.com, and who knows, it could be you that we're commentating on the very next race.
Yeah, we'd love to see you out there on the track, because it looks like an awful lot of fun. I keep saying to myself, I've got to get myself entered into one of these races in the near future, because with racing as close as this, and for a mixture of experience levels as well, crucially, then yeah, the Sim Grid has a place for everybody, so I really can't recommend getting involved more. Denise Pope is going well again now after the spin earlier on. Denise now into 19th place, having just got ahead into that 19th place ahead of Ian Harvey. So Denise continues to work the way up the order. Back to second place though, Novikov right behind second place man Felix Rupert, and now there is traffic on the horizon as well. 6 minutes and 20 seconds left on the clock, and it just now starts to get really, really interesting for these two, and it is so important here for Rupert to hang on to second place. As it is, he's going to lose the championship lead, yes, but he'd only be 2 points behind Lozanov. If he loses another position, however, he'll be that little bit further back, with now just 2 races remaining after this one. So this isn't just a battle for a podium place, but valuable championship points. Even if realistically Novikov is out of it now, Felix Rupert is very much in the championship battle, and he's got traffic now, David, at the worst possible moment.
Yes, not the best, but I mean, looking towards the championship, Andy, there is an argument to say to Rupert, let Novikov go. He's not really a threat. Yes, he'll lose a couple of more points. We've got another yellow flag. I've got a horrible feeling that's a 2-2-2 again. But is it worth the risk? Is it worth the risk of either not finishing, of damaging the car, or getting significantly worse points? That's what these races and these championships come down to, Andy. Risk management, weighing up the options.
Yeah, it's another 6-point drop between second and third. You get 42 points for second, 36 finishing third. So it is a pretty big swing, that, and I know 6 points doesn't sound like a lot, but I've just got a feeling this is going to be one of those championships that's won and lost by a handful of points. So I don't know, I agree with you to an extent, but I just worry that Felix would then look back at that at the end of the season and wonder whether or not that cost him the championship. 5-second penalty, meanwhile, we are seeing for car number 38. That's for an unsafe rejoin. A car that is down in 22nd place at the moment. Just Leon had an unsafe rejoin, which affected negatively in some way Denise Pope in the 79 car, so that is a penalty then for number 38. There is Just Leon in the half practice hero, Maybe he needs to practice those rejoins a bit more, and he nearly has another opportunity to do so, and he will, because he lost it going through the left-hander barbecue, and now he does have a chance to practice rejoining the track safely, which he does in exemplary fashion this time, thankfully. But another example there of just how lethal these cars are on throttle application.
And that just shows you, it almost feels like the world's slowest accident, because it takes 3 turns to actually happen. It's the left, then the right, then the left again. But this is on board with Alexander Novikov down in towards the run to turn 1, chasing down Felix Rupert. That's excellent from the lap traffic there, getting out of the way and staying absolutely nothing. But I mean, this is, if ever you wanted to have a textbook definition of how to drive defensively, this is Felix Rupert right now. We've got another yellow flag that's cleared again. But this is just fantastic work, and Novikov really has to, if he wants this second place that badly, he's going to have to force Rupert into making a mistake.
Yes, which, I mean, Rupert's had a couple of mistakes, but nothing major enough to simply hand second place over to Novikov. And with now just 3 minutes remaining, Alexander will be starting to get maybe a little bit more impatient here then. We ride on board with, well, on the left-hand side of your screen, the second place man. On the right-hand side of your screen, the third place driver, Alexander Novikov, who is asking all the right questions of Rupert. But so far, as we saw last week, in fairness, defensively speaking, Rupert has all the answers. He really does seem to be good at placing his car in the right spot so that he's covering the line, but he's not compromising his lap speed. If you really defend and over-defend in some of these tight corners, you leave yourself all out at sea coming out of the corner, and the driver that you're defending from just gets a run and drive straight past you anyway. But that is absolutely not what Felix Rupert is doing. Rob Taplin's recovery drive, meanwhile, has brought him to 16th place now, and onto the tail of the 501 car. This is Kevin Rowland, and this is probably the last position that Taplin realistically will gain here, because there's some 3.6 seconds behind the next group, so Taplin, in a way, can afford to be a bit more patient about this, can't he?
See, that's the difficult thing, though, is when you're in that position, when you're behind the wheel. Obviously we get the luxury of having the live timing board, and what a move! Are you kidding me? Almost round the outside of Roland there from Rob Taplin. NSN Racing, what a move that would have been if he got that done. But again, you just keep pushing as a driver. I've been in that position myself behind the wheel, and if you're not pushing, that's when the accidents start to happen. If you push too much, that's when the accidents start to happen. So you've got to find that sweet spot. You've got to find that happy place where you're on pace and you're keeping the laps going through, but you're not driving the car too hard, and you're not got the luxury of being able to think about things.
Yeah, well, right now he's thinking about getting the cutback out of turn 2, which he might just have done to perfection. Up the hill they go, through Crowthorne and the Jutsky sweep and into Barbecue, and he's ahead. So Rob Taplin with a pretty textbook exit from the corner. I have to say his rear tyres seem to have been looked after pretty well so far, don't they? Down through the left-hander at the mineshaft we go. This is the penultimate lap about to be completed then, so just over one more lap of the Kyle Army circuit to go. And now Rupert seems a little more comfortable in second, doesn't he? He's pulled a few car lengths advantage over Novikov in third. There is one more back marker to be dealt with. Novikov's the one making the mistakes, though. Took too much curb there through Cheetah, ran wide over the grass, and that means that Rupert gets another little bit of a break on him. The back marker in front, I'm sure, will try its best to stay out of the way. Christian Lozanov, though, has checked out. 3.5 seconds nearly is his advantage with a lap to go. This really has been a textbook performance, and as I sort of predicted might be the case, it all came down to that first corner. He may not have started on the inside line, but he got through at turn 1, and that proved to be the pivotal moment.
It certainly was, and look, he's just shown that he's got the class, he's got the skill, he's got the ability and the pace, and managed to roll that all into one tonight. Had confidence to just fire that car around the outside and just have the belief in himself to take that. And look, we've barely seen him in this first race at all, because he's been so comfortable out at the front. The laps he's been putting in is just sublime, absolutely sublime, and completely deserves a race win for Christian Lozanov tonight. Felix Rupert, again, didn't win the race, but, I mean, arguably put on a more dramatic performance, because towards the end there, having to fight off Novikov like that was a pretty special affair there. David Dancer, though, I mean, he didn't have too much confidence in chat earlier on, and he's looking like he's going to finish in 21st place. I'd be fairly happy with that.
And it could get better, actually, because he's right on the tail, isn't he, of the 20th place car. So he could scrape a point out of this. If he can, it will be at the expense of David Fong, or perhaps Denise Pope, who's just ahead of them as well. The leader, though, is at the final corner. Christian Lozanov is going to come through to take his second win of the season. He won round 1, he was third in round 2, and now he's back on the top step of the podium in round number 3 of the Kyle Army mini-series. Second place goes the way of Felix Rupert, who after a race-long defensive drive, certainly through the second half of the race, is successful in keeping Alexander Novikov behind. He will lose the championship lead, Rupert, but by just a couple of points to Lozanov, with 2 races still to go. Errol Verwey 4th, Regan Mitchell 5th, Josh Inman 6th, and that's a really good drive from Josh after a slightly disappointing start to the season a week ago. Gerhard Walzer, as we documented, got the better of Carlo Barberi by 3.5 seconds in the end, and rounding out the top 10, Thomas Ehrentraut. Now, what about this fight for 19th, 20th and 21st? Denise Pope weaving around, trying to stop David Fong in the roasted racing Porsche, getting a run into the final, or the penultimate braking zone really, at the Crocodiles. Closes in on Denise Pope, does David Fong, and of course Dancer will be thinking, go on, have a go, take each other out, because that would give him 2 places there for the price of 1. They're going into the final corner though, so if it's going to happen, it will happen now. And there was a mistake there for David Fong, got a bit too sideways out of the Crocodiles. Denise Pope still chose to defend into the final corner. They come off the corner pretty much as one though, so Denise Pope I think is going to come home in 19th with David Fong 20th, and David Dancer just missing out on the points then at the end of another frenetic race. Brilliant racing there, David. The championship takes another twist with Lozanov taking the points lead away from Felix Rupert. And the good news is we get to do it all again now in just a few more minutes' time in the GT4 Cayman.
Very much looking forward to that. But do you know what won that for Christian Lozanov? Not only this first corner move here, just beautifully around the outside, had the confidence to smoothly get back on the power. I think that's what did that for him on that move. But the consistency, Andy, the times, I'm looking at his lap times.
That is on the KTM. Oh, sorry, not the KTM. That's a Porsche on the KTM. I got confused. Yeah, Franken and Wig. Wig leading Silver Class. He wasn't anywhere near last time around. He suddenly put himself up to P4 overall. He's had a brilliant start there in that KTM.
Yeah, well, Wig having a good qualifying will restart the race where he did, and the KTM did look very, very strong. The KTM apparently is a very good car in the wet. We had to ask a couple of the drivers this because, I mean, I've never really driven any of the cars in the wet, but the KTM apparently is actually quite good. And you can see there, the 202 of Franken just made the slight misjudgment, tried to go around the outside of the KTM, which puts him on the outside for the second corner. And then that's it. Because you didn't get the run, he's now lost 1, 2, possibly 3 places. And that is really the problem when you're in a train. You open the door or you go for a move on someone. If it doesn't pull off, then you're just going to be dropping places.
Yeah, that's not what he wanted. Even though if it's not for position, he would have been wanting to stay with Wig and fighting for that P1 spot. But it's a 40-minute race. He's got a little bit longer to think about his comeback here. And yeah, here we are on with Cyanide up to P17, starting P21. So he's made up 4 positions already, sliding a little bit around in that BMW, having a good time. But in his mirrors, he has Billy Octane in the Chevrolet Camaro, which I think is probably one of the scariest things you can have in your mirrors. So he's going to have to keep his nerves under control, and even though it's not for position, he is the buffer between the guy behind him for position in class. So he would want him to stay behind for now.
Yeah, Cyanide or Amir Thacker trying to run away from the big V8 powered Camaro. Massive car bodywork wise. It actually has quite a low roof, but it is more mighty. I believe that is the silver class Porsche. That's Rob Franken in the 202 off at the exit of Ascari. Looks like he had another moment again. We see a lot of Porsche drivers having a bit of a moment down in Ascari. I think it's just something about the curbs that unsettles it.
Oh!
And actually, it gets tapped. And that car, once you're on the grass, there you go. There's no control anymore.
So that was Googly and Franken getting together there under braking. I think Googly just completely underestimated the distance or to the braking points, and Franken doing damage limitation. To be honest, it could have been much worse of an incident there. And he does have damage now. Not very unfortunate indeed, but he... Oh, as you see in the background there, Kjell Green on the back of Lawrence almost taking him out, but he manages to abort at the last second right there. And it sort of shows how easy it is to get your braking wrong, especially at Monza and in the wet here for the Porsche drivers.
Yeah, a lot of the drivers now have to re-evaluate sort of braking distances when you've got that little bit more fuel on board and you're in the spray. You've got to remember that your car won't pull up as good as you thought it once, especially at the end of the race, considering that there had been a bit of that dry line for me. So it hits the abort button, manages to avoid any contact and continue around. And this is Svenček, who's once again slightly the cork in the middle. He's got Googlia behind, who is for position, and he will want to run away. But Wig, in that 499, showing a great showing in silver class in the KTM. Like I said, race 1 didn't really go his way, but race 2 so far is looking really good.
Yeah, and seeing the KTM up there is a little bit weird, because it is, I believe, the slowest car, at least one of the slowest, because there is, of course, the Ginetta, but I think that it is the slowest car in the straight line, and he's doing great with it. I think the go-kart aspects of the car really helping him get through the corners and getting great exits here.
Yeah, and swapping back to sort of mid-pack of silver. It's Olefe, it's the battle of the Alpines. They sort of have stuck together. They stuck together a little bit in race 1 as well. But that will be that. Olefe letting through, I believe, one of the pro cars.
Yeah, it's still the field is so close, so battle is happening all over the place. We see 2 people in the pit lane, probably forgot to fuel up or have some sort of damage. I believe that's also why we saw an Aston Martin pulling off at the start of lap 1 before they went green. I think he probably would have forgotten to refuel the car, which is a bit unfortunate, but it does happen sometimes. But here we have Svenček catching up to Wig now. Wig sort of falling a little bit behind Harsefort, and yeah, that's not a position in class, but hey, Wig would want to finish high up as possible, as it does give yourself a little bit of an ego boost.
Yeah, exactly. Just trying to run away with silver class, and so far it's looking quite well for him. Jumping back a little bit, Joe Dorber, who was battling silver class a lot of time, looking to the left, looking to the right of Olefe, but nothing to be had. And you can see the Alpine in the corners. It's just trying to scuttle away using its little handling potential. But that was it. That was a slow exit. The Aston Martin caught right back up, thinking about the move up inside of Lesmo. One backs out of it. Probably the better of 2 Valors. And Harwood is actually now under attack from Octane with almost a similar thing. Slow exit, and you don't need to tell that Camaro twice. You can see up the inside, and the Alpine now in a drag race. And well, I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure that our broadcaster for today, Mike Jones, will tell you there is no replacement for displacement.
Yeah, that is indeed American VA power doing its job there, but here you have the French sports car aspect of the Alpine under braking, just able to close up on the Camaro, and he manages to stake up the inside of Billy Octane as they both run quite wide off track, but he manages to keep the position for now. But yeah, that is a great fighting there. That's also the beauty of GT4 racing. The characteristics are so different, yet the lap times are so similar. So it's really great racing to have. Now we have Billy Octane up the inside of Hardwood into Parabolica. Is he able to make the move stick? It looks It looks like he is, and his teammate in the background there of Bryant also sending up the inside of the Porsche there, but it's still going side by side, the Camaro and Alpine. Alpine with a great exit there. But again, we keep saying it, with that displacement of V8 motor making its way down the straight, showing what 4 extra cylinders can do. And here he is making the move stick. Yeah, he is under braking. He is able to make it happen. And oh, actually, never mind. He goes very deep, and he cuts the track a little bit. He'll get a warning for that. Maybe get a poor exit, but the Alpine's going to catch back up now. And I think he's going to let the position go, as it was a bit of a cheeky corner cut there. But hey, it happens.
Yeah, the two Camaros looking to march through the field. Tom Bryant in the background, which Billy Octane's one of the teammates, been in the silver class, doing pretty much the exact same move, just on the Porsche behind. And we have a quick race replay. That is Luke Wigg just getting spun around. You can see the slight twitch that KTM had. I had a feeling that this would happen. The KTMs look so brilliant, but then as soon as they start to go, because of so much short wheelbase, they've gone. And Martin Lawrence there, just nowhere to go. By the time that he'd realized the car was losing, he was already in its rear bumper.
That is very sad to see indeed. My heart sort of breaks for Wigg, as he was doing an amazing job up there in P5. And yeah, it just shows you how easy it is to lose the KTM in these conditions. And yeah, that is heartbreaking. Monza strikes back for him. He's not having a great race this time around. Oh, off the track is an Alpine there of, I believe that is Hardwood. He's had an incident of some sort. But we'll get a replay of that now. We'll have to see what happens.
I believe it might just be an outbreak. Yep, just an outbreak, and there you go. The front snaps and decides that to hit the abort button and take it off the track. I mean, will be once again a bit of a track limits warning, but if you continue your race, well, better than ending up in the wall.
Yeah, and he didn't actually lose any positions from that. Billy Octane maybe caught up a little bit, but he didn't lose too much. Maybe a warning from the game, but in 40 minutes, that shouldn't be too much of a difference. I think the worst thing that can happen is his race engineers might have to clean up Brown's seat at the end of the race.
Yes, and take all the gravel out from on the under tray. We're swapping back a little bit further up the field, back into sort of this little pro car train, is Alexander Guglia. Just about managing to pace Svenček and keep Lawrence behind. Lawrence, we've seen in race 1, did really, really well, made the right decisions and sort of shuffled himself up the pack. Currently in P7, but that could just be a pacing thing. We've seen some drivers before where they hunt. They will sit behind you and they will pace you, and they'll realize where that particular driver is weak, and at the end of the race they might pounce. Because I would say that BMW is just waiting for the opportunity. You just need to open the door coming onto a straight. Martin Lawrence will just absolutely gobble you up. But Guglia, having none of this waiting around nonsense, he wants to get around Svenček now. And you can see coming up to Ascari, gonna go too wide. And yep, they are still too wide coming into Ascari. Svenček has the inside, and Guglia goes all the way around the outside, has the inside for the next corner, and that was it. Position done. And as I said earlier, it's that will be Martin Lawrence to catch back up. And well, I've had a bit of a glance over in chat, and yep, big V8 motor.
Yeah, there's some good racing there from Guglia and Svenček. Svenček now has Lawrence behind him, who also was behind him last race. So this will be quite interesting to see if he is able to make another move on Svenček yet again. But Svenček...
Can you hear me over the top of that that's going on?
Rubula, who's losing quite a lot of place to Lima, and Barzaghi, who I believe was P3 last race, has caught up to him now. So this could also be an interesting battle. We still have 27 minutes to go, so everything to fight for. Still have a decent amount of time to think about when to make your move. As you said earlier, just stalking your prey until you see they're a bit vulnerable and then ready to pounce.
Yeah, well, we're seeing that Aston Martin close right up in the rearview mirror as we take a bit of an onboard lap around here. You can see that although now Rubula has nothing in front of him, he has a nice clear windscreen, no spray. It is still deathly slippy out there, and such hard difficult conditions to drive that Audi. And we've seen him make a mistake in race 1. He will definitely be, that will be in the back of his mind that he cannot make that same mistake in race 2. And the Audi just losing a little bit of time over the stint. It might actually be that it's just slowly the edge is wearing off of it. We've seen cars that do great quali laps and then fall off in the race, and might be that the Audi's just suffering a little bit with that.
Yeah, it could be, but also looking at the way he's driving, he's very cautious compared to last time around. So I think he might have taken a little bit of a confidence knock last time around with the few spins he had. So taking it easy, as I'm saying that, he goes a bit wide on the score. He manages to catch the car. You can see the steering wheel going crazy on the left-hand side there. But yeah, he seems to be struggling a little bit more this race, but he is also driving wiser as he's not spinning. So, I mean, if that's what he needs to do to maintain P2, that's all that needs to happen. But he goes a bit deep there, and you see in the background that Barzaghi closing in on him on the braking.
Yeah, and you can see that car just so twitchy through Parabolica, which is where the mistake was made in race 1, but determined not to make it again, while still somehow fending off that 2 behind that is just looking stronger and stronger as the race goes on. Jumping back a little bit in the Pro Train, Svenček and Guglia once again. It did look like Guglia got around Svenček in Ascari, but now he hasn't really been able to run away. And you can see all 3 of them bunch right up. Martin Lawrence has to this time hit the escape road. All 3 drivers doing well to avoid each other, but this is how close we're racing in the rain.
Yeah, this is really intense stuff, and I'm sure these guys, or these drivers, have a heartbeat of 180 at the minimum currently, because this is about as intense as it gets. And Lawrence, you see, hitting the eject button, and we might see Svenček hit the eject button later on, as it's just so easy to misjudge the braking in front, especially with 2 cars. And actually, Guglia gets a poor exit around the outside, which is now the inside, tries Svenček into Lesmo 1. Is Lawrence going to follow through? He doesn't. He stays behind for now, but Svenček gets a little bit deep, and now Guglia trying a cutback maneuver on him. Is he able to make it stick on the exit of Lesmo 2? It seems like he brakes a little bit earlier. Svenček gives him the racing room he needs, gets ahead of him as well, but now Lawrence on the back, they're almost into the barrier with a massive amount of oversteer as he's eager to get past Guglia, and that is all it takes for a huge mistake, and he manages to catch it in the end. But now you see Svenček having to defend from Guglia, who might go around the outside here. There's a great battle happening here for P5.
Yeah, Lawrence, you can see the drive that the BMW got, but he had to get out of the throttle at the last moment, just sort of trying to launch the car around, realized there was not enough room and pulls it out. But now we can see the BMW speed as Guglia has once again a slightly worse exit. Svenček, on the other hand, is now taking this opportunity to run away with it if he can. The Porsche closing right up in the brakes, just about missing the rear bumper of that Aston Martin by millimeters. And as we ride on board with Martin Lawrence, God, where do you go if you're Martin Lawrence? You just need to, you look left, you look right, and there's always a car there.
Yeah, you were mentioning earlier that sometimes you just have to be patient and wait to pounce, and it looks like he wanted to pounce last lap, and he might have a chance again this lap. You can't see anything in that spray. He can't even see Svenček, so he's going to have to try and estimate when Svenček will brake to take into account that Guglia brakes earlier, and a little bit of contact in the rear end. It happens again on the exit there. I think Svenček was a bit early. Guglia had to bail out, and as I was saying that, Lawrence couldn't say that, but now up the inside of Curva Grande, and Lawrence maybe able to make a move into the second chicane. It looks like he has a head for now, but we saw how great that Porsche is under braking, and potentially Guglia could fight back with a switchback maneuver, as we saw earlier on Svenček, but he's not able to do it. Lawrence gets the move done. A little bit of love taps on the way to happen, but he makes it stick, and he's up to P5.
Yeah, so position gain for Martin Lawrence, but you can see Svenček just taking the line. Everyone concertina's up, and there's a bit of rub in his racing. Defending the line hard will cause that, but you've got to sort of anticipate this as a driver. So Svenček keeps 5th, Martin Lawrence up to 6th, and Guglia so far demoted all the way down to 7th.
Yeah, and I don't think this fight is over yet. The way that these drivers were driving close to each other 15 minutes prior to this is a good sign to more racing to come, as they had a really good battle there. But now we looking a little bit further down the field, we have McLaughlin here in P20, trying to close in on the P19 car of Roberts as he's trying to. Sorry, he already passed Roberts. I'm very sorry about that on the exit there of Lesmo 2, and now he's trying to close in on Boardman, who's ahead in that Camaro.
Yes, Boardman being the first of his class for the number 7, the 69. The flash of the lights, obviously a little bit. I think normally when I flash the lights, I'm just a little bit disgruntled, I would say. Jump it up a little bit. Amir Thacker, Cyanide, doing a great job this race, managing to defend from Boardman, the 69. Even though he is not in his class, you have every right to do so. And, well, if you've got a little bit of a bubble in your silver class, it's about 1.9 seconds back from Franken, who we've seen make a couple of mistakes this race. So it's not entirely out of the question that he can gain another position in silver class. But yeah, just pacing himself. I know we've seen quite a few fans of his in chat as well. And well, this race appears to be going much better than what Spa did for him.
Yeah, Spa was an intense race for him, but race 1 went well for him, and now race 2 is going well as well. So yeah, good to see Cyanide having some good pace and some good luck here as well, having a good race all around. Now we're here with Jackson on Kjellgren, and these two are fighting for P1 in silver class. So as we were mentioning earlier, if Cyanide just keeps it clean, he could potentially, if these guys come together, make a few more positions. But anyways, Jackson here on Kjellgren, Audi versus Porsche. It's basically the same battle for P1. However, this Audi is right up behind the Porsche.
Yeah, and Jackson, as on an average, will be doing brilliantly so far. If he can hold it, he will have finished second in both races, which will really help his points battle. Cutting the first chicane of Ascari, they're obviously very confident in that, and that will catch him right back up to the Porsche, who can't. It appears that the Porsches don't like taking the curbs. I mean, not a lot of cars like to take the curbs, but it seems that a lot of the Porsche drivers really have to avoid them like the plague. And well, that's Jackson up the inside, but runs incredibly deep, far too deep to defend it. And that will promote the 294 back up into the lead of Silver briefly. But going the long way around does mean that the Audi now has the run onto the straight. I believe these cars are fairly matched speed-wise. So now it's going to be, what can he do into turn 1? Who's going to be the last of the late breakers? Looking for the braking marker, and it looks like it will be the Audi. Jackson just about holds it into turn 1.
Yeah, it looks like Kjellgren there just tried to sort of like let Jackson pass and try a switchback maneuver in turn 2. Not quite able to make a stick as he does hit the curb. And you did mention earlier how sensitive that Porsche is over the curbs, especially in the rain. So that is a swap for P1 there, and Jackson having a great race so far. Anyways, we're back to this battle here with Svenček, Lawrence, and Guglia. They just don't stop fighting here, and it's great to watch as Guglia is caught up to Lawrence again.
No, absolutely. These three, one of the quite the common names around RCI. We see them quite a lot, especially and in our World Tour as well. And yeah, driving, this close in the wet in these tricky conditions, just great thing to see. Lawrence has now got the tricky part, but he might not, as Svenček has a bit of a slide coming out of Lesmo 2. You see the BMW closing and closing, but he's got to be able to make sure that if he goes for the move, he doesn't open the door for Guglia. Looking like around the outside of Ascari. We've seen many drivers do this move. We've seen it pull off, and there you go. Martin Lawrence passes the 107 of Svenček, Green Loafers engineering team. We'll get a quick race replay of that. You can see the gap between these drivers, millimeters. You can see just about enough space for two cars. The 898 tries to capitalize on this, but there was just no room there. And now Martin Lawrence up into P5 once again. It's now his job to try and run away.
Yeah, he made his moves when he saw they were possible, and he has managed to take 2 positions from it. But yeah, it just goes to show one little mistake running in a train like that, and that is costly indeed, as Lawrence just gets a great exit compared to Svenček, who got a little bit sideways, and now Lawrence is leading that pack, and I'm pretty sure Svenček is gonna have a little bit more issues trying to overtake that BMW just because of how great it is on the straight line. We're going back to Rublia now, who is 7 seconds behind Lima. Lima having an absolutely dominating race yet again. He's won race 1, 2, and 3, and it looks like he's set to win race 4 as well.
Yeah, Tiger Lima looking like they want to have the Grand Slam. They want all the trophies to take home, and doing the hard work for their team. As like I said, Nito has not completed race 1 or race 2 of this Monza race, so that will hurt them slightly in the championship, to say the least.
Yeah, I was going to say that Lima, he's just trying to get all the points he can for the team today to try and keep them in P1 in the championship. But as it stands, I think there will still be P1 at the end of the race if all the positions maintain the same. So they have a pretty good lead already. Anyways, here is Ayrton on the back of the Porsche of Franken. Here, not in class, the fight, but he does have Boardman, who is in class, behind him. So he would want to get past Franken to have a little bit of a buffer between the car gap behind, and maybe also potentially catch up to the Alpine in front of him. Now we see Billy Octane. Is he trying to line up a move on Butters? He's looking at it. Butters actually goes pretty deep here, and Octane just trying to carry the huge V8 motor around the outside, cuts the chicane, cuts the Cascari a little bit there, jumps over the curbs, makes it stick though, and he is passed.
Yeah, looks like it. The 402 Audi going slow, but now Billy Octane has to defend this. 402 lets them by, and that will be position held coming into Parabolica. You can see Butters forced to go around the long way around the 402, and just about holds it. It's a long old way around Ascari, which will have cost him a little bit of time coming down to the straight. And Billy Octane moves up, so he's now got a nice buffer between him and the 507 that is behind him.
Yeah, it was a good 2 positions you go right there, and he did a very smart move there. He sort of blocked off the attack from Butters here with the 402 on the inside. So Butters had nowhere to go, and he just had to concede, and the Chevrolet V8 Power just doing what it does best, and he's up to P10 now.
And back up to one of the pro drivers who we haven't really talked much about this race, Laurie McLaughlin. Sort of having a bit of the race 2 that he didn't exactly want. We've seen him a little bit higher in race 1. He's busy battling Cyanide or Amir Thacker in the 51. Obviously not for class, no extra points gained, but I'm pretty sure that both of these drivers will be having fun nevertheless. You can see the 007 Aston Martin just looking this way, that way, but the BMW defending well, knows exactly where to put the car where you can't make an overtake. You could think about it, and even if you went for it, it just would not pull off. So it's sort of the best kind of defending.
To the Museum
You're not
of Laptops.
actively defending and losing yourself tons of time, which you can't do, because if you look in the background,
laptops be more
Dorler's
like
just
phones?
about in
Here
shot.
we go.
So Cyanide can't defend too much.
Old Wi-Fi
But yeah,
passwords
he's
used
doing a
before
very good
5G.
job to keep
You're about to feel what
number
it's like
7
to
behind.
drop like an old laptop.
Yeah, and if he does manage to keep number 7 behind,
Looks
he doesn't
like
have to
you
worry
still
about
don't
anyone
understand special.
behind him
Be
taking
humble.
position, as,
Special never brags.
He's doing a great job so far.
Who's a special guy? That's right.
He's made,
Me.
another
See?
position in
Special.
second
Nah,
class.
mate. Someone wins that
So
jackpot
fast
every
now.
single day.
He's
It's daily.
The daily jackpot on Paddy Power Games. If you win, don't think you're special.
Verona on Butters, these two battling.
Okay, that's
laps,
as many
last lap
windows
as, well,
as I can
and
actually open. I
maybe he's able to
apologise if
fight
you
back on
keep
Butters
cars,
and try and
buses
get that
and
podium position
motorbikes go
back for him.
past during the race, but
Yep, we've seen the 402 sort of having to be the wedge. We in between the sort of battle between Octane and Butters. So caught up at the moment that you exactly didn't want to force Butters around the outside. But that means that now Billy Octane has managed to escape it as these two keep battling.
Yeah, it's a good battle for sure. A little And that Mercedes there, as quite a beautiful colored Mercedes, inspired by the Golf there is. Oh, huge dive up the inside from Boardman there, and you see Franken having to bail out of it, otherwise that would have been contact. He's not happy with that, flashing his lights. And yeah, that is not a move for position in class. However, it was somewhat dangerous, and I'm sure Franken will not be happy with that one at all.
Yeah, Franken sees the Camaro in the mirrors and dives out of the way at the last second to avoid a contact. Obviously, and this is the one thing that and speaking of, as we jump back, that's still the 69 going inside, and there's contact between the 14. That's Ertan and Boardman, both off the road in the second chicane, side by side, and it looks like that the Camaro clips the curb slightly. It's contact 1, contact 2, and both cars facing the wrong way.
That is a very unfortunate end to that battle right there. I think both of the drivers with their elbows out in a place where there's not really space for it, and I don't really know not really anyone to put the blame on. The stewards will have to have a look at that one for sure. But anyways, we move on. The race continues, and I don't really think we can admire that livery anymore because it's pretty scuffed up now. But anyways, here we have Guglia sort of falling behind a little bit on Svenček, slowly but surely getting gapped by them, and Jackson is maintaining his gap as well with about 1 second to half a tenth between. So I think everyone in the top 10 just sort of running their own race now, not really anyone fighting too hard at the moment. But yeah, this beautifully colored Porsche as well, doing a great job in P7.
Yeah, exactly. And Jackson, you can see now starting to gap his silver class rival. It's about a 2.2 second gap for Jackson. So race 1 went well for him, and race 2 is just going that little bit better. But speaking of good races and how to have them, Tiago Lima just a county mile ahead of everyone else, is 8.3 seconds in these conditions. We thought that the Porsche might not be the car today. It looked in practice like that the Porsche was ailing. We all thought that, wow, maybe it's just not the day and it's not the track. But I mean, what we can do is we can take these notes and throw them in the bin, because Tiago Lima comes along and just proves to us that it is his day and it is his track. And just a quick reminder as well, looking through some of these people that we've got, like Martin Lawrence, like Svenček, Guglia, all these people who we've seen had great races today, they will be racing in our World Tour, and this weekend is the Super Pole and qualifying for that, which might actually be comms by me and Ryan Gill. So if you don't want to watch that, then please subscribe, hit the bell, leave us a like and a comment on this one. It all helps us and helps us to bring you some of this great racing that we've got today. And as we see with the GT4s, still pretty close. And this is the sort of the level that you expect in this split, whereas everyone gets into their little own battles. But look at the track map. There's just no one has spread out.
Yeah, and we go on board with Verona there. He's dropped down quite a lot now, so he must have had some incident. Now we seeing Wig again. He was leading the silver class not only about 30 minutes ago, until he had that huge spin and crash. But he's doing a decent job there in P22 and maintaining. Oh, as you see on the exit there, again, that KTM looking very unstable in these conditions. So yeah, that's a good battle here. Verona with a bit of front end damage, I think maybe able to capitalize on the poor exit there of the KTM. Is he able to do anything up the inside into Parabolica? KTM brilliant on the brakes though, but not enough, as the Audi does make his way up the inside. A little bit of love touch there, but it's all fine and dandy. And then I have Alex Broma, the leader in the Silver Championship currently in P24, make his way past the KTM as well in that BMW.
Yeah, just waiting for his time, waited for the door to be left open, and there you go, the 404 now pulling away down the straight. Like I said, leader of the silver class has sort of not had his races go the way that he wants. And now there you go, look, KTM thinking about a move up the inside. Shows the nose up, but nothing to be, as we've got a BMW backwards at turn 1 with yellow flag.
Yeah, I didn't quite catch which BMW. Oh, that is, was that? No, I don't believe it was. Yeah, okay, sorry, it wasn't Cyanide, it was Roberts. Sorry for anyone who thought it was Cyanide, as we have some of his fans in chat today. Always great to see. Yeah, I just
Leap.
bounces over the curb, almost catches it, and then actually gets oversteer as he catches the car. So, yeah, as Mike Jones just said in my ear, hippity hoppity, you are now turning the wrong way. And that is unfortunate way to end his... Well, it's still 5 minutes left, but that is very unfortunate. He loses quite a lot of positions there. Phil Roberts, unfortunate, and sad to see the BMW not survive the curb hop.
Here's what gets the car going in the right direction. And I mean, we said that, didn't we, that the curbs were a bit vicious. And also we said that this battle might have stopped, but once again, entirely wrong. Svenček right back up to the back of Lawrence with 4 minutes to go. Can Svenček do anything to the might of that BM? Catching it is one thing, overtaking it is a whole nother story because of just how great it is down a straight line. You can see the Aston entirely in the slipstream, and it's basically gained nothing, but look at the brakes on the Aston Martin. That BMW is a big, heavy car. It kind of drives more like a touring car rather than a GT4 car. It's a very heavy machinery.
Yeah, and you see also Svenček, all it takes is a little bit of an oversteer and exit, and then the BMW just shoots off into the distance. So I think he's got if he is going to make an overtake, he's got a lot of work to do and not a lot of time left to do it. So this could be a battle right to the end of the race, and I'm excited to see potential maybe for the finish. That has happened before, and if that happens, that'll be absolute scenes, and I can't wait for it.
Yeah, Svenček just about pacing himself, picking it back up, and despite the turn 1 problems, you can see he is slowly catching back up to Martin Lawrence. So I think that we might actually see another battle once again. By now, you're trying to just wait for that micro mistake from the person that you're racing. It's just that one slide, that one bad exit, and that will be it. And they will have you, especially when you're racing the likes of Svenček and Lawrence. You don't need to give them any sort of indication. They will have you.
Yeah, for sure, and we saw it earlier as well with Svenček getting oversteer, and Lawrence just pounced on him, and which has put him into the position he is now in P5. So yeah, this battle continues on, and I think Guglia is also slowly but surely catching up now as these two are maybe losing a bit of time fighting each other. So Guglia could also be a potential factor come the end of the race, but there are only about 2 laps to go, so it has to happen quick if he manages to catch up. But anyways, Svenček with a great exit there, going a little bit wider than Lawrence, but not much he can do because I think the straight line of that BMW is just a bit too powerful for him, and he has to just slot behind and try and catch up under braking.
With where our leader was, Tiger Lima, it will be another 2 laps, which will be a blessing for some, and like Svenček, and it will be a curse for others. Right up under the rear end of that BMW once again. Gotta really have he wanted to have a good real look at those rear tail lights on the BM, just to check, all the bulbs were working and that Lawrence had his rain light on, and back we go. But yeah, so for some people, that will be an absolute blessing, and for some, it's a curse. And well, for others, they're now just lapping until that checkered flag comes out. And we have a quick race replay. This is Alexander Palmer looking around the outside of that KTM. As we said, the KTM looked so strong in the early race. It looks like we might have had a brilliant silver class leader, qualified amazingly. It's just sadly gone backwards the more that the race has gone, and that we see it a lot of times. So that sometimes is just KTM life. They qualify amazingly, and in the race they fall off.
Yeah, it's a very twitchy car to drive, so for race pace it's not the greatest, but it's definitely a brilliant qualifier, and if you can tame the car, it is also an absolute monster in the race. But it is super difficult to try and tame the car in these conditions, especially around Monza, where you have to worry so much about your exit, and it's so easy to get oversteer with the car. So yeah, it seems like Wig unfortunate today, and in race 1 as well. So he's going to learn quite a lot from this, I believe, and maybe next time we have a rain race, he could be leading the race and also finish in P1. We'll have to see. But now Svenček only has 1 more lap after this one to make the move on Lawrence, and he's closing in, getting a great exit here as Lawrence goes pretty wide, but I don't think there's much he can do. He won't be able to catch up on the BMW down the straight. However, he will be able to try and challenge him under braking.
Yeah, as we've seen the tale of 2 cars, and Where the BMW is great, the Aston Martin the Aston Martin is a little bit weak, and where the BMW is weak, the Aston really closes up. Brakes and cornering, it is the Aston Martin. But every single time, you have to get so much of an overrun versus the BMW to launch by them that it's very, very difficult if the driver in front of you knows where to place that car. And well, as the white flag waves, that will be playing on Svenček's mind. What can he do? Can there be anything from Lawrence? Just one twitch, a slight misjudgment, anything, and that Aston Martin will go for it. And actually thinking is the same as Alexander Guglia, just about coming into shot. The 898 launching across the second chicane in a bit of a late break, desperate attempt. But that's once again, he can't now can't take his eyes off the front or the mirror.
Yeah, Svenček in a pretty poor position here, and a little bit of oversteer and exit there for Lawrence, but again, not enough for Svenček to do anything here. Now Google has won a little bit of piece of the action here. I think having too much fun looking at the battle ahead, forgot his braking mark jumping over the curves, but he does manage to close up in the end. However, it just looks like these cars are a little bit too far behind, as Svenček has to absolutely nail his run through Ascari to try and do anything in Lawrence, but Lawrence also having a great run through Ascari, so not much he can do there, as Lawrence is actually, seems like he's pulling away a little bit, and Guglia is actually slowly catching up to Svenček, so that's a battle to watch at the end. But here we have Lima, your race 1 winner, and your race 2 winner. As he crosses the line, flashing his lights, he'll be very happy with that. And we have P2, Rubilar, unfortunate race 1 where he spun lap 2, but he has managed to maintain his position here and gets P2, followed closely by Barzaghi in P3, so that is your podium position for this race. And we have Harseford, unfortunately caught up in instant lap 1 last race, P4 now. Lawrence does manage to stay ahead for P5, Svenček P6, Guglia P7, Jackson, your winner of silver class, in P8 there, and then the Kjellgren 3 seconds behind, P9, followed by Billy Octane, who rounds up the top 10.
Yeah, so a much better race for Billy Octane getting into the top 10. And as we see, just the final few positions, people really wanting anything that they can get. Can Pilmot get it on the line? It does look like he has a slightly better run than Dorber. It's going to be a drag race to the line, side by side, and Dorber holds it by a nose. Just about a tenth between them. So coming up to the line, that would be Dorber holds it, Pilmot behind, and everyone else falters in. Tom Bryant, Alefi, Vorman, Palmer, who probably didn't have the race that he overly wanted. Boardman, who suddenly drops all the way down with probably a bit of a last lap spin. Wig, who looked so strong in the early race, but the KTM just fell off after a little bit. Roberts, and that will be the last of the cars on the track. I believe the Maserati of Joe Gleason. Yep, he is still going around. He is just plus 3 laps down. So, and Correa is in the pit lane. And there we go, as the last car crosses the line in style. Well, that was a race and a half. We've had some thrills, we've had some spills, and well, some very, very, very close racing.
Yeah, it was really entertaining for sure, and these past 1.5 hours have just flown past us with these GT4s, constantly fights happening out throughout the field. Monza as well with the rain, adding some spice to it, and yeah, as we go through some of the replays now of highlights from the races, we just see, I believe, Lima and Rubilier shooting off into distance in turn 1, and yeah, Lima from there on just knew this was his race to have, and he wins with 10 seconds to spare compared to Rubilier behind him. So great dominating drive again from him, but not to discount the battles throughout the field, as we had an amazing battle with for P5 with Svenček, Lawrence and Guglia that basically lasted the whole race, and yeah, I really enjoyed this one.
Yeah, so the question next week will be, can anyone knock Lima off that top board? The Porsches look like they're going to run away with it, and well, we'll be back next week. Once again, if you want to see the conclusion to that is, can anyone catch those? Next week will be at Misano, so make sure that you subscribe, hit the bell, tune in for that one. I'm sure that we will get some more close racing. Tomorrow will be, once again, our Friday GT3 Championship. A big field, tightly packed, and some great racing so far. Now, that is definitely not one to miss. Night Owl Season 5 has been announced, and that will be starting back up soon. And then we have all of our usual Monday Championship, the Wednesday Diamond Drive, which is coming to its conclusion. And we also have, on June 13th, a little bit of a special event, a Cup versus GT4 race. So if you want to see that, like, subscribe, hit that bell, and join our Discord so you don't miss any of the racing. But from me, Christian Stricker, and Mike Jones has been doing the cameras. Hopefully, we'll see you at Misano.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Sim Grid, and welcome to another wonderful interview here for the More Female Racers series by Thrustmaster. My name is Chaz Draycott, and I'm delighted to be joined today by the wonderful Sarah Moore. Sarah, how are you doing today?
I'm not too bad, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad at all. Just very, very busy at the moment, as I'm sure we all are now. The world's going slightly back to normal a little bit. Talk to me, how's lockdown and everything been for you? How's the whole sort of last, it's nearly 12 months is a bit of an understatement, really. It's nearly 2 years now, isn't it, really? How's it been?
Almost. Yeah, it's been good. I mean, it's been a roller coaster, which I think it has been for a lot of people. But yeah, I think doing the sim racing has kind of kept me going. To be fair, I've met lots of nice new people and some new friends. So yeah, it's kept me in the right place, I'd say.
Yeah, it's a good thing for sort of helping mental health, helping keep you sharp, and of course, like you say, meeting some great people as well. And that's one of the best things about sim racing is the wonderful community.
In go-karting when I was 4 years old. So my dad himself used to race. He's got his own race team and our own airfield, so it was quite easy for me. I started in karting when I was 4, moved into the Ginetta Junior Championship when I was 14, won that in 2009, and then I went on into endurance racing. I won the Brit Car Endurance Championship in another Ginetta. And then from there, I've kind of progressed on, and I'm now racing as part of the W Series.
Fantastic stuff. So it's been quite the rise, really, as well. And I mean, karting as well at 4 years old. I mean, I've got a 6-year-old, and he can barely put his shoes on the right feet. What sort of? I mean, if you can remember, what sort of like mental challenges do you come across at that sort of age? Because surely there's a lot of learning that you have to do very quickly.
Yes, I mean, I can vaguely remember it now, to be fair. I mean, my dad had to build me a special, he called it a Barbie car because it was bright pink. I really didn't like the colour, but, he had to build it specially for me because I was very tiny when I was younger. So it's specially built for me, but yeah, I vaguely remember it, to be honest. And I think at that age, it's one of those things you just kind of do it without realising that you're doing it kind of thing. It's a lot easier to pick up when you're younger, whereas as you get older, you find things a little bit harder to pick up. So yeah, it kind of, obviously growing up, it was kind of second nature to me. So
yeah, that's it. I suppose back then you've got no sort of like fear factor or sort of overthinking things or seeing things in a different light. You just got what's in front of you and you just get on with it, don't you, I suppose? And that's probably what helps. I mean, I know a lot of people that come from karting, it's the main background, isn't it, really, in motorsport? If you've got to a good place, then you've usually come from karting. But I know that without sort of having any mental blocks in front of you at that age, it's the perfect sort of honing ground for it, isn't it? You just get on with the job and just go flying straight from there. Now, talk to me about Britcar, because it's a very interesting championship to be involved in. There's all sorts of cars on the grid, all sorts of classes. What class was it that you were in for that series that you won?
I think it was class 4. It feels like a lifetime ago now because of COVID. Yeah, I think it was class 4. So we were in the Ginetta G50, which is the old G55, what is now. And we had a bit of a souped-up engine, so it was a bit of a machine. But yeah, we were up against the TCR cars in our class, which was quite difficult, really, because they had traction control and ABS, front-wheel drive, so they could just plant the power and not have to control the rear as much, whereas we didn't have either of those assists, so it was literally all down to the person behind the wheel. It wasn't so bad in the dry because we had the raw power, but in the wet, we couldn't get anywhere near the TCR cars just because they had traction and ABS. So it balanced out throughout the year. Yeah, it's a fantastic championship. I mean, they have, if you look at it this year, they have the Pragas, which in my opinion is a bit 50-50 about those, if I'm honest. They're a fantastic car, but in the Brit Car Championship, I don't think it's the right place for them with all the other cars on the grid. But it's, they have the mix from those to your Nissan, to the likes of your people that are just starting off in, say, your Lotuses and your TCR cars. So they've got such a wide variety of cars, and I think the championship itself is, as a whole, is a fantastic championship.
And it's a good place for people to learn about traffic in motorsport because, I mean, as you've obviously found out, with endurance racing, one of the main things you'll come across is traffic and a big variation in pace over the course of a race. Because if you've got multiple drivers in just one car, you can see one car early on going really quickly and flying off in front of the pack. But then when they do a driver swap, it'll suddenly drop back a little bit and it changes. So having that sort of constant amount of cars around you that aren't on the same pace, it's a bit of a different bag in the head, isn't it, really, with the talent that you need to sort of negotiate that, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely, because obviously you're concentrating on trying to win your own class, so you're concentrating on focusing ahead. But you've obviously also got the cars coming up behind you that are in the faster class, so you've got to be able to kind of manage that and watch your mirrors. And you're never, a bit like sim racing, really. You never want to move out of their way because they're already planning when they're going to overtake you as they're approaching you. So, you've just got to kind of stick to your line and just keep an eye on your mirrors and look for them coming through. But it kind of the same applies as, when you're catching the slower cars. You've really got to be able to plan ahead. You don't want to be the person really to kind of make that last minute move up the inside because it's such a risk to take in some cases because that person might not have seen you. So yeah, it's all about pre-planning and watching your mirrors.
Yeah, and obviously just sort of managing the situation itself. It's easy for me to, as a commentator, I've seen it many a time, and I get to sit up here and go, oh, this is what he should have done instead, or oh, they shouldn't have gone down the inside there. They should have just waited. But it's so much easier for me to sit up here and say it. Now you mentioned sim racing there, so obviously it's been a fantastic thing to have for everybody since the whole of lockdown and COVID. But what is it that first got you interested in sim racing?
When I got through into the W Series in 2019, they had their own sims that we use. So we were using them throughout 2019 to learn the tracks for the year. I was never really a big sim user before then. As I say, I've raced for years, but I've never been one for sims. They usually make me feel sick, to be fair. So I stayed away from them. But I had no choice in 2019. Obviously, I needed to learn the tracks and learn them quick. So that was the only option I had. I went and bought a very basic sim at the start of, I think it was the end of 2019, actually, off a friend. And then that ended up coming in handy, obviously. We went into COVID and the W Series ended up running their own E-Series, which I did. And then I became part of a few championships through a friend. I got into iRacing and then I got into ACC and ditched iRacing. And now it's just ACC and pretty much I think most of my stuff I do is through the sim grid, actually. So I've met some great friends and they kind of just keep dropping me messages. Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? Yeah, why not?
Well, when I'm an absolute massive iRacing fanboy. That's where I started out, and it's where I still am now. It's where most of my broadcasting comes from. But at the same time, I hear the nickname for it, ice racing. Once you've been on Assetto Corsa or Assetto Corsa Competizione, I hear it called ice racing a lot because you just don't. It feels like the car floats around a lot, and in ACC and AC, it feels like there's actual gravity. It feels like it's on the ground and it's planted. You can feel what it's doing and bouncing around, and it makes all the difference, doesn't it? Really.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, from my perspective, I kind of just want to be able to jump on a sim and be able to set relatively decent times and not have to play around with the setup too much because I'm basically just want to learn the tracks and enjoy the racing. And I find that on iRacing it involves too much of setup. I mean, I do race for a team on iRacing, and so I do the odd endurance races, but the amount of setup needed to get anywhere near a fast lap, it just takes too long. Whereas on ACC and AC, I can pretty much jump in and kind of go with a fairly baseline setup and, be within 2 seconds of what I would say is a good lap. So, I mean, iRacing is nice for the endurance stuff, but I definitely spend most of my time on ACC. So
15 minutes is all it takes to learn a powerful trading strategy that we believe could help you potentially make up to.
I don't blame you on that as well. It's a fantastic sim in itself. It's just, I always find that with immersion, sound is important, and ACC just seem to have nailed the sounds, like the feel of just the car and the cockpit itself. All the little squeaks and whistles and bangs and all of it. It's just epic stuff. Now, of course, women racers in esports, of course, very important at the moment with the whole push that more female racers is doing as well, and as SimGrid has done since it started. What are your thoughts on the presence of women within esports? How important is that to you?
it's just as important as it is in day-to-day life, just in any sports, to be honest. Obviously, as I mentioned, I'm part of the W Series, and that's all about promoting women within motorsport in every aspect, not just as drivers, engineers, mechanics, everything. So the more that I can do to help women in sports in any aspect, even across sim racing, just to get more women involved, and you never know, they may go on to race in real life. So I think it's just important, just across sports in general, to kind of bring the percentages of women up to try and match the men eventually one day.
Yeah, and you mentioned obviously the movement into the real world. So in terms of your own career and your own progression, what would you say have been your biggest challenges progressing through your career as a female in motorsport?
I get asked this question quite a lot, and in all fairness, I've not really faced any challenges. I think because I started at such a young age, to me, it's all fairly normal. But I think the people that do start a little bit later on in life, probably in karting, at the high level karting, if they go into the high level karting or straight into cars at a competitive level, I think that's where the challenges come, if it's something that they've not grown up with, because everyone obviously within that sports season was a new person, has never really heard of their name before. So that's where the challenges come. But I mean, personally, I've never had any challenges myself. I've always been surrounded by obviously my amazing family and great friends, and they've always been supportive. So
Oh, brilliant. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? I know a lot of drivers that have been up through the ranks in their career and progressed to where they want to get, but as long as you've got a good team of people behind you, and even if it's not a team as in an actual racing team, but just family and friends and just that support makes all the difference, doesn't it, no matter what?
Yeah, definitely. I'd say family more so than friends, because sometimes friends come and go, but family is definitely the key, and sometimes obviously friends are family. So yes, I'd say that is the key, most important thing.
Yeah, definitely. It's great to have that support. Now, of course, the More Female Racers series itself, which is on behalf of this interview, that's why we're here, effectively, if I get that sentence the right way around anyway. What does that series mean to you? Like, how is it for you to see something like this cropping up in esports?
Yeah, it's great just to see so many women together. I mean, I've been doing the series since it started, and if I kind of look back to the start, I mean, I was pretty awful at the start. I think I was near the back of the grid. I didn't do very well at all. But if I look to where I am now, the MFR has helped me progress on sim racing so much, and I've met, as I say, so many great friends through there, who are also supporters of me in my real life racing, which is great. But yeah, it's just great for me to see how that series has come on from day one. It's something that, if I can and if it fits in, I'll always be part of, just because I started on day one, and I just love to see the progress and the people that keep on sticking at it, and meet all the new people coming in, and just see it grow. It's great.
Yeah, I was going to say on the driver development side of things as well. I mean, I commentated on the first series of it, and unfortunately, other clashes meant I've not been able to continue since then. But that you see different drivers every single round, even just getting better and better. People may start the season very new to the cars, very new to the sim in general, or any sim or sim racing at all, and they'll be maybe 10 seconds off the pace, and then suddenly the next round they're like 3 seconds off, and then the next thing you know, they're actually 1 second off the top spot at the end of qualifying. And there's just amazing development, isn't there? It's incredible how quickly that can happen.
Yeah, definitely. I think I was probably one of those people back in the first series that started, about 6 seconds off. But yeah, I think bringing the coaches in and working with the coaches to develop, obviously when you begin or when you start off in sim racing, I think that's I think what they've going on there is fantastic. Obviously, it's down to that driver and their coach to put the time in to help them progress. But over the series, we see that working a lot more. And I think especially in the third series now, you've got some very, very competitive drivers. I think on average, I'm usually, I think, within 2 to 3 seconds of the roses, which I would say I'm quite happy with that. If I'm within 2 seconds of them, then I'm okay. I can live with that. But yeah, I think, the coaches do a fantastic job of helping us, even just with the setups and guiding us through the track in preparation for the races. So I think, the whole setup of the championship is really good.
And obviously, if you are someone that is brand new to sim racing, not just even ACC or iRacing or whatever, how important would you say is coaching for someone that is new? Not maybe even just to sim racing, but racing in general. Knowing the physics and the behaviours of the cars.
You kind of just covered it there. It is all about learning the physics. I mean, the racing line is obviously always usually the top one. You've got to get the racing line right first before you play too much with the setup. I mean, in my experience, the setup doesn't need too much adjustment. It is kind of down to a little bit of your driving style. Some people have a little bit more of aggressive driving style, and some people are a little bit smoother. So, there is some alterations to make to the setup on that front, but it's all obviously as a beginner who's never even raced before. It's all kind of, you're starting from scratch. So yeah, you're learning your racing lines. Sometimes you need to adjust your actual brake itself to be able to get the right brake shape. The same with the power. So it is literally kind of learning step by step, really, and then your final bit is kind of playing with before you play too much with the setup. I mean, in my experience, the setup doesn't need too much adjustment. It is kind of down to a little bit of your driving style. Some people have a little bit more of aggressive driving style, and some people are a little bit smoother. So, there is some alterations to make to the setup on that front, but it's all obviously as a beginner who's never even raced before. It's all kind of, you're starting from scratch. So yeah, you're learning your racing lines. Sometimes you need to adjust your actual brake itself to be able to get the right brake shape. The same with the power. So it is literally kind of learning step by step, really, and then your final bit is kind of playing with the setup. But I mean, even when you get down to the last kind of 2 seconds, really, some of that even is just still in your racing line. You could be a foot out on your racing line on one corner, and that can be worth a couple of attempts. So yeah, having a coach is just to watch over you whilst you're doing your laps, or to be out on track with you for you to follow, is always very handy, just to find kind of the bits and pieces that you need to get the perfect lap together.
If you or a loved one is fighting with receding gums, tooth decay, or bad breath, then this discovery could save your life.
I like how you assess that there with, the racing line is the first bit you get right. Because at the end of the day, if you've got a car, whether it feels terrible or whether it feels great, if it's not on the racing line, then it doesn't matter how it feels, because, you're not putting it in the optimum position to use all of what the car can do. So I like that assessment of it, actually. I've never even thought of it that way. So even I've learned something today. There we go. Now,
right place first.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah, you don't want to be in the gravel or anything. That's not really anywhere to... you could be off in the gravel and someone will go, I think we need to go 2 clicks down on the right rear damper or something like that. And you're like, yeah, find that out in the gravel, mate. So in terms of the More Female Racers series, if I say it correctly, I've done that twice now. What can we do, even on top of what we've done now, to engage more women in sim racing, do you think?
I think it's just all about promotion, and promoting it in the right areas and across social media. If you can get the hits on social media, and obviously the people within the series itself promoting it on their own social media, if they have social media, or just talking about it. But I think social media is the biggest key for everything these days, to be honest. That's where everything is seen. That's where everything is grown. So yeah, social media is definitely the key. But just kind of spreading it around friends, family, trying to get, obviously as many people involved as possible.
It's all about unlocking that confidence, isn't it? Because I know that in the female community on the SimGrid, I've seen all the comments and everything from the series itself, and obviously reaching over to the transgender community as well. It's unlocking that confidence in somebody to just come out and get on with it. There's obviously a lot of mental blocks sometimes holding people back from that, because they sort of almost feel an instant disadvantage, don't they? Sometimes. In the way that there is sometimes physical differences in the motorsport world, in the real world, but in sim racing it gives you that chance to be on a level playing field, doesn't it? I think that's one of the main differences, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would say in the real world, in a race car, once you're behind the seat, we're all exactly the same, and we're all out there to do the same thing, and the same thing applies in sim racing. I mean, off the back of the More Female Racers series, I have now got my own Discord
It's all right.
channel,
I've got my bike
all
outside.
Of the females that have been involved in the More Female Racers series at any point, or any any of us have met along the way or new people that are wanting to get involved are all part of my community on Discord. And
Brilliant.
Away from, the SimGrid channel where you have got the males, obviously it's nice to have somewhere for all the females. Have the men involved, so to speak. So yeah, it's great.
Yeah, that's fair play. Now, I apologise if my wording of that question was so strangled it was unbelievable, but that tends to be what I do here. Now, in terms of going back to the real world side of things, it's a bit of a simple question, but it's one that we all want to ask, I'm sure. What is your favourite car and track combination that you've driven in real life, and why?
Ooh. That's a difficult question. I think if I do them separately, I mean, my favourite track I've ever driven is the Nordschleife in 2014. Yeah. That's definitely my favourite track.
Do I need to say something now?
Together that I've driven, it would have to be Spa in LMP3 in the Ligier. That's the best one I've done with a track and car combo so far, anyway.
Well, obviously the question to follow that up is, how scary is Eau Rouge in real life? I imagine very.
If you've got aero, not too bad. But I went round there in a Porsche GT3 car on tyres that were about 12 years old, and when the rear goes at the top, it's pretty scary.
Yeah, I can imagine that's a squeaky bum time moment. That.
Yeah.
But you mentioned LMP3s. Now, I was lucky enough when I was on holiday in Italy a few years ago. I by chance just went down to Monza because we were about an hour down the road, and we saw the LMP3 cars testing there. They're unbelievably potent compared to what people tend to think, aren't they? They're really capable bits of kit.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's kind of where I want to go with my own racing, back to the prototypes. But the cars are just absolutely fantastic pieces of machinery and works of art. They've developed quite a lot since I raced it. I think it was back in 2015. But just to look at, they're just, I could stand and look at one of them all day. They're just absolutely beautiful cars. And when you see them out on the track, I think in terms of the aero, the aero through the corners makes those things just, I'd say, easy to drive. But I mean, obviously, you've still got to be a good driver and a good peddler. But the way that they stick through the corners is absolutely unbelievable. It's something that obviously, sim racers that never really get to experience the real G forces and the way that you feel actually in a real race car. And, I'm quite lucky in that respect. And I probably, most of the time, pre-COVID, take it for granted, how lucky we are to race these kind of cars. But yeah, nothing will beat for me the look and the feel of the prototype cars.
And obviously going from the real world to the sim racing world, same question again, really. What's your favourite car track combo on there? Because I think one of the beauties with sim racing is that you can be anywhere and drive anything, can't you?
Yeah, that is one of the great things of sim racing. Actually, you can jump in and drive some great cars. That's actually a trickier question because of that than what real life is, to be honest. Yeah, that's a tricky one. That'll take some thinking.
There's so much to choose from, isn't there? Because obviously with
really
mods and everything out there as well.
I'm just trying to think of what I've done. I think Kalami, actually, no, Bathurst. Is definitely my favourite track combination that I've driven the most on in a nice car. I say the car around there. I'm quite a fan of the Lexus, actually, around there. I'm a big Lexus fan, but which is a bit of an odd one. I do love the Lexus. I keep on going back to it. I'd say the Lexus at Bathurst is probably my favourite so far, I think.
And it is an interesting car, the Lexus, because of the fact that it's quite a bulky GT3 car, but in the same way as like the Nissan GTR, the Bentley Continental, they're both quite beefy in their own way. That sort of it spreads the weight well over all four wheels, doesn't it? The extra aero and everything that they have to even make them bulkier than normal is just what spreads them out. We actually had a question about the Lexus. We obviously got some questions from people online, and Celine Witcher asked, "Can we go Lexus on Lexus again around Silverstone?" It was a lovely battle in More Female Races Season 2.
Yes, I would love to get the Lexus out again at any next given opportunity. I actually run a fun race every Thursday for my community, so I might have to get the Lexus out. So if you want to come join us, Celine, you can definitely do that, and we'll relive that moment.
There you go, smashing stuff. And we had a question as well from Corbin1990 asking, how do the pre-race nerves compare in sim racing versus the real racing?
Kind of uncomparable for me, really. When I'm racing in my sim, I just get very hot and sweaty. It's very warm in this room. Whereas in real life racing, it's something that I've kind of got used to over the years. So I think, to be honest, in real life, my nerves have got worse as I've got older. But yeah, I don't really tend to kind of feel the nerves as much in real life. I say in real life, I'm kind of surrounded by friends still. So my way of dealing with the nerves in real life is just having a laugh and a joke pre-race. It kind of gets rid of the nerves for me. But yeah, in sim racing, because I'm stuck in this one position in this seat, it gets very hot and very sweaty. So
I can vouch that I get very similar. That's why I don't really race much. I tend to just commentate because it's a lot easier for me to sit here and be able to move around a bit more. But it's interesting to see that, though, because I've spoken to a couple of drivers about that situation. You know, how nervous do you get for a sim race? And, you know, do you feel worse in the real world for it? And, you know, people in all disciplines from GT racing to touring cars. And everybody says in the sim, you just feel this added pressure and nobody can really explain why, because you've not got the risk of, you know, obviously going for worst case scenario, you've not got the risk of getting hurt or anything like that. You've not got risk of damaging the car. You don't have to really deal with the same physical G-forces as we discussed earlier, but still you get more nervous about it because maybe there's a bit more of an unknown who you're racing against, but it's hard to explain why, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it is. I think what most people that do sim racing don't look forward to is the first two corners. That is like, if you can survive the first two corners, I mean, you're onto a winner, really. I think I've done it about maybe 3-4 times because, you know, if you qualify, you kind of, you know, from, I'd say 8th kind of backwards, you know, you're in that midfield pack where anything can happen. And it's difficult to get the start right because you kind of want to hand back from the person in front. So you're not, you know, obviously misjudging your braking point and going into the back of them. But when you do that, the person behind you does what you didn't want to do, and then you get fired off. Yeah. So it's really, I find it hard to judge the start in real life because you can't physically see, you know, the gap of and the distance of the cars kind of at the side of you or behind you. You can only see really what's in front of you. So yeah, I think the thing that people don't look forward to is always turn 1 and turn 2, especially at Monza.
Not getting anywhere with your trading? Sick of making bad decisions? What if you had a checklist that you could...
You know what? As soon as you said looking forward to turns 1 and 2, the first track I thought of is Monza, and everybody just checking up on the braking zone on the way in because it's a pig of a corner. It's very entertaining, but it's an absolute pig of a corner on the first lap, and it's just always where the mayhem happens. I think whenever anybody sees Monza on a calendar, they think, "Oh, not that chicane again," but it's just part of the fun. Now, you briefly touched on it before, so I feel this question is already answered, but just in case we get some elaboration, I thought I'd ask again. What aspirations do you have in your motorsport career that we could potentially look forward to as fans, that you can at least tell us about at this point? Because we know that you racing drivers like to keep things under close wraps sometimes, don't you?
Yeah, I don't have any kind of big plans as of yet, obviously. At the moment, I'm just doing the W Series, which is great because we're supporting Formula One this year. So if any of you in whatever country can make it to any of the tracks, it would be great to actually meet some of the people I've raced against in the virtual world. But yeah, in my real life going forwards, obviously my ultimate goal is to race at Le Mans 24 hours. And to get there, obviously, there's various different ways. But I think after the W Series, I'm hoping to try and do Asian Le Mans Series this winter. And then from there, it kind of depends on the results from there as to where I would go from there, really. But yeah, the ultimate goal is obviously to become a professional driver, to be paid for what I love to do, whether it be in GTs or prototypes, really.
Yeah, and you mentioned Asian Le Mans Series. I'm very invested in that with Abruzzi, who sponsor RLR Motorsport, who run in LMP3. Funnily enough, would that be the category you're looking to go in LMP3s for that?
Yeah, exactly that. My brother won it himself in his first year. He went straight into Asian Le Mans Series and won it.
Brilliant.
And that's kind of what I want to go and do myself. I'd love to team up with my brother, but it depends on the
That'd be
regulations when we go and do it as to whether we actually can, because we're both FIA silver graded drivers. But that would be the dream, to go do Asian Le Mans series with my brother.
And it seems like a very, very tough series in itself. I mean, they haven't always had the biggest grid of all the sort of endurance series that you get out there, but it seems that the caliber of drivers in that grid is just unbelievable. You know, you do get some drivers a bit further down the order that are still quite new to it, and it's their first venture into it. But at the same time, they use that as a real proving ground. So you never really know what you're going to get in that series year on year, do you?
No, exactly that. I mean, I only really started watching it when my brother went into it himself. And from then, the championship has really grown. I mean, a lot of people are attracted to it now because it brings you the entry for Le Mans, which is, you know, pretty big in a racing driver's point of view. I think that's why a lot of people go there now. So you do, like you say, you get such a big, you know, caliber of drivers, but you still get the people that are relatively new to prototype racing, wanting to do it for the circuits and for the experience of driving a prototype car. But it has become a very, very challenging championship.
Yeah, definitely. It's great to see something grow like that, though, because a lot of the time, I mean, I'm sure you as I have seen series sort of come out of the woodwork a little bit, and then you think, oh, that'll be great. You know, when they get more drivers and more teams in, that'll be awesome. And then some series, unfortunately, even at club level, they just don't take off in quite that way. But Asian Le Mans series has always had the sort of formula to be exciting and to have what all the other endurance series around the world have that we so well know and love, and it's great to have seen it develop into that. So fingers crossed we'll see you in that one day, because it looks like a wonderful thing to be a part of. Now, we've had another question actually from Barry Phipp on Twitter, and I've probably got his name wrong, knowing me, because I'm a commentator. That's what we do professionally. He's actually put a bit of a tongue-in-cheek one, actually. He's put, apart from family and friends, who would you say is your biggest fan?
He wants me to say Barry, that's what it is. Barry's is a big fan of myself, Alice Powell, and Abby Pullen, who I'm really good friends with and race with. So yeah, he wants me to say Barry, but it's a tricky question, to be honest. I think other than family, my biggest fans are my friends from Ireland, Emma and Kales. I think they're probably my biggest fans, as well as Barry, obviously. So.
The legend that is Barry, eh? Well, now, obviously, you mentioned that you have friends within the series as well. Sort of away from the series itself, what sort of socializing do you guys do with one another? Obviously, where possible throughout COVID and everything. Is there often meetups with you guys, or is it sort of you don't really see each other until the race meetings? What sort of mingling do you do?
Yeah, but I mean, because of COVID, we haven't been able to do anything, to be honest, yet. I'm hoping in the future that some of us within my Discord community can get together and attend some kind of track day in some country. I think that would be pretty cool. I can put my my coaching and racing side to good use, and they can enjoy the driving side, and with me kind of, you know, coaching them in the real world. I think that would be pretty cool for my community. But yeah, I mean, the girls that I like, Alice Powell and Abby, that I race against in the sim world, and I know in real life, we've met up a couple of times, but COVID's been pretty difficult with work, and obviously the guidelines that have been in place. So
yeah, it's certainly changed a lot of people's perspectives on things, as well as just changing what we can actually go and do. But you know, it's a very positive time at the moment with the world going back to normal slightly. I'm sure as much as I've found out as you have at the moment, European travel's been an absolute pain in the backside with all the testing and the amount of money it costs for COVID tests as well. It's absolutely done me over for this year, but it's part of the job, and it's part of the fun, I imagine, for some time to come yet. But we'll see. It's very positive. But any final questions from you, Sarah, before we sign off today?
I don't think so. I think I'm good. I'm yet to have my breakfast and my coffee, so I'm still not 100% awake yet. So no, I can't think of any right now, to be fair. I'm just thinking about food right now. So.
I always am. I'm in that boat with you, don't you worry. But it's been an absolute pleasure, Sarah. Thank you very much for joining us today, and hopefully we'll see you on track very, very soon again. But have yourself a fantastic day.
Cheers. Thank you.
Ah, it's beautiful. I remember cooking my...
Thanks very much for watching, everyone. We'll see you again soon.
race originally. Obviously, it's the Lamborghini Super Trofeo that we see as a support race in the support package for the GT Championship. What do you think we can expect to see from these cars tonight?
Well, I think the good thing about having these one spec series is obviously everyone is in the same boat. Everyone is in the same car. They have to drive to what the car is actually doing for this particular track. I think these cars they're really suited to Imola. Okay, it's one of those things. The Lamborghini is a very, very good car to drive. It's a very stable platform, I've found as well, and I think it really does suit this track really nicely. We're going to see a lot of heavy braking zones, as we know with Imola, a lot of braking zones going into the chicanes, the hairpin as well. So got to watch out for that, because I think it's going to be a case of last of the late breakers for the majority of these overtakes that are going to be happening tonight in the Lamborghini.
Well, I think it's about time that we get an in-depth guide to the track that we're racing tonight here at Imola from our very own Alex Goldschmidt.
We're on board the Huracan Super Trofeo with around 610 brake horsepower with Gregor Schill from Coach Dave Academy, heading towards Tamburello on this hot lap. And we're going to hit a speed of around 245 clicks in 6th gear, heading into Tamburello, down to 3rd through the first apex at 120. Just notice through the 1st, 2nd and 3rd apexes how much curbing Gregor Schill takes as he actually exits out of the corner. Now the short run down to Villeneuve. We're going to break into this just before the 50-metre mark board. Down to around 160 through the first part of Villeneuve, 2nd gear at 120 through the second part, and now the short blast up to Dorza, taking its 2nd gear and 70 kilometers an hour before Gregor Schill boots the throttle once again, using all of that 5.2 litre V10 screaming engine up the hill as they head towards Piratella, the left-hander that takes you down into the double right at Acqua Minerale. Down into 3rd gear at 135 kph, allowing the car to drift off to the right-hand side. Now the dip comes along rather quickly before heading into Acqua Minerale. First bit of it taken around 190 in 4th, down to 2nd at 105, up the slight incline, and now the run down to Variante Alta, which is a 2nd gear chicane, taken at 105 kph through the first part of it and 95 through the second part of it before the run down towards Rivazza, the double left-hander that concludes the 3.050 mile circuit here. Now he's pushing up the gears up to 5th now, over 215 kph as we run towards, now brakes before the 50-metre marker board, down to 2nd at 100 through the first apex, through the 2nd left-hand apex at Rivazza before the run to the line. Looks to be a fairly good, clean lap here from Gregor Schill, as he will push his way across the line and cross it just over 225 kilometers an hour in 5th gear.
So a huge thank you to Alex Goldschmidt there for that awesome guide round here at Imola, and let's have a little chat about that, because we've got a couple of minutes to go while we wait for qualifying, Dan. And it is such an iconic high-speed track here. You're going through Tamburello, that really difficult hairpin at Tosa, where it almost doubles back on yourself, and it's so easy to outbrake yourself, especially possibly in these Lamborghinis.
It is indeed. You're actually, looking at the onboard lap, you see how much curb you can actually take with these cars. The good thing with the GT3s, I think, again, especially with that Lambo, it's a really stable platform. But the amount of curb you can take is crucial to getting a fast lap run here. You don't want to cut it too much. Obviously, you don't want to get any potential penalties or anything like that, but you can really throw these cars over the curb. But you do have to be patient, though, with these GT3 cars. As you were saying, David, going through Tosa as well, you've got to be patient, because you can induce some understeer if you're not careful. I'm sure we're going to see again some, I can't wait for this racing to get underway, but yeah, what you're going to want to see is just how patient these drivers are going to have to be, especially on throttle coming out of the hairpins like just Tosa.
A very good evening as well on YouTube to Ionut Cosman and to Yukari there in the chat, and they almost raised an eyebrow when you were mentioning that the STs are stable. I think they slightly disagree on that one.
Okay.
It all depends on the setup, though. And if you would like to get a very fast, stable setup, head over to CoachDaveAcademy.com. Hey, there we go. Right, that's the bills paid for this half hour. Joking aside, Dan, obviously we're just a couple of minutes away from qualifying here. With it being a 30-minute race, how important is qualifying tonight?
I think, to be fair, it's one of those things where you really do have to be conscious of the qualifying. Track position is key. Somewhere like Imola, a 30-minute race, it's a sprint race essentially. You've got to. It doesn't mean you have to be going flat out 100% all the time. You still got to be, you've got to be tactful with your overtakes and as such. But you've still got to be conscious, and that track position is going to be very, very key. Because if you have a poorer qualifying, you're starting at the back. If you have got the pace to be sort of top 5 and so, you've got to try and get through all of the other drivers as well. There's a lot of cars out on track, and there's going to be a lot of cars in this race. So I think track position is something that people have got to be conscious of. I don't think, though, it's something that you need to dedicate 100% of focus on. The race, it's 30 minutes. A lot can happen in 30 minutes, as we both know. So,
well, the other point I wanted to very quickly touch on with you, Dan, is the fact that we do have racing royalty with us tonight in the form of the number 93 car of our very own Michael Hamlet taking to the grids. Now, we're going to have some predictions. We were talking to Michael beforehand, and we may be blessed actually to get an onboard chat while he's driving about, so we'll make sure we pick the most awkward moment to actually do that. But, for somebody that dips in and out of Assetto Corsa Competizione, how easy is it to sort of just jump into this top split? Do you think he's going to have problems tonight, or do you think he's going to be able to hold his own?
Well, I think when you do look at the grid here, there are a lot of quick drivers here. I mean, to be fair, I think we're going to see. I've not seen Michael race yet. This is going to be my first ever taste of seeing Michael on track. So at the end of the day, I think, as we can see his car there on screen now, lovely looking blue the team. Is that? Oh, look at that! He's put a love heart with David. Oh, look at that, David. That's nice, isn't it? That's nice. I'm glad he's done that. I feel a bit left out, I have to admit, but it's fine. We can move forward with it.
I'm feeling the love. That's I'm genuinely blushing here. Thank you very much for that, Michael. I've got to be honest. There's some team names. There's some team names that we saw in some of the other races that I'll take that one. 1 minute 45 left to go in free practice. Then Dan, we've got at the top of the timing screens just now 1:44.8 from Ben Norton. Nobody's even really close to that apart from Marcel Fusi with a 1:45 flat. Everybody else in the high 1:45s right now.
Yeah, it's true. We're actually looking as well. You've got, that is Alexander Rab, who's currently just 700ths behind. And then we've got a big gap. Yeah, to be fair, you're right. So, between first and third, there's separated by a 10th. This is free practice. Again, it may not necessarily be 100% what we're going to see in qualifying. But yeah, it's a bit of a gap then between P3 and P4. Whether we're going to see that in qualifying, like I said, we're going to find out in a second. But it's going to be close either way, isn't it?
It certainly is. So qualifying is about to begin, ladies and gentlemen. 10-minute qualifying session and then a 30-minute race. This is going to be awesome stuff. If you like what you see tonight, remember to like the YouTube channel here and give us a subscribe. And if you want to hit the notification bell as well, that would be very much appreciated. And head over to thesimgrid.com and sign yourself up for all of our fantastic daily races and championships. Right, the banter is about to end because we're getting the serious business now of qualifying. I've got to be honest, I think Variante Alta is going to be a hotspot for things going very, very wrong tonight.
Yeah, I think, to be fair, all the chicanes are to a certain extent. There's only 10 minutes worth of qualifying, so these guys have got to be out on track and getting their laps in as quick as they can. Track position, I suppose, in the sense of actually getting out early, is key. That's almost potentially more key than actually getting a faster lap time, because you don't want to be hitting traffic. So yeah, I think the chicanes, you're going to potentially see a bunch of people up. They're all going to try and make a little bit of space. We see there that with a logic that's gone ever so slightly wide going through the Tosa hairpin. So track position in terms of not getting held up by anyone is very, very key. But yeah, I think all these chicanes, Tosa, it will bunch people up. They have got to be careful of that.
Weather is going to play an important factor tonight, because the way they've got this entire event set up is that each of the races takes place on the same day in terms of climate. So it looks to be looks actually quite dark out there I'm wondering if we're potentially going to get rain for these first 2 races. We'll keep an eye on that because the skies are looking very, very cloudy overhead here. But the in-game time, the in-sim time, will match the real-world time up until the 2.4, where it'll be off slightly, but that's to do with some logistics actually getting this up and working. But you'll see the track transition in real time. And it'll be very, very interesting to see, especially for the Porsches that are coming up in about an hour, to see how they deal with the darkening conditions.
That's very, very true. But yeah, looking, as you say, David, looking at the overcast, it looks very, very overcast, doesn't it? So yeah, I'll be potentially going to see a spanner thrown into the mix in not very long. But at the moment, we're just about to see. So all the drivers just come around now. They're going to be starting. We're going to see some laps be put on the board now. So who's going to be, as we're currently on your focus, with Mr. Michael Hamlet, and we can't see his team name at the moment, but obviously we know what it says, don't we?
We certainly do. Part of me wants to see an onboard actually with Michael, just to actually watch and critique his driving style. Obviously, work with Michael on a fairly regular basis, so there's a lot of love there, but yeah, I've got to be honest, because as I say, from my dealings with Michael, it's all been here at SimGrid and it's all been commentary based, but actually seeing him take part in the race, this is great fun. So yeah, and to be honest there, as he's coming through AKM Racing, car's looking very, very smooth indeed.
And yeah, to be fair, again, so that's one of the things you can see that, nice smooth application of steering, throttle, patience. Again, like I was saying before, patience is key to get the power down. You don't want to be pushing too much understeer as well. Just going to watch him go through Rivatsa as well, using up as much of the curb as you can on the outside. That's free lap time essentially. If you can get, again, there, you see how much curb that is being used, and again, run nice and wide, as maximising the exit, a little bit onto the gravel there, but that won't slow him down that much. And I believe this is Michael's very first timed lap, so we can actually see Norton with a 145 dead, so no one into the 44s just yet. I'm sure that will change. Look at that, with a 145.676 straight out of the back for Michael. Very good lap indeed.
That certainly is. I'm quite impressed actually at that one. I wasn't expecting that, because the pre-event chat was he was quite pessimistic about his pace and how he was doing, and that's very, very close to the practice times anyway. And yeah, that puts Michael in a very, very good position. However, let's not count apples before the qualifying session's over, because 5 minutes left to go. A lot can happen in that 5 minutes, Dan, and I think these guys are just getting started right now.
100%. You look at it in qualifying especially, it takes at least 2 or 3 laps for these tyres to get really up to temperature, so these times are going to come down. But yeah, I mean, Ben Norton, look at that, a 145 dead, and that was his first lap. And that's a 6/10 gap between Norton and Hamlet. So we are going to be seeing these times come down. Don't be surprised if we do see several times in the 44s as we go on with the number 44 car of, that is Graham Depriater, I believe. Apologies for these name pronunciations, Dave. You're going to have to help me out on this a little.
And oh my God, I'm so glad to have somebody that can't pronounce the names either.
Oh,
it's a joy.
Fine.
Do you know what?
Fine.
Let's have half an hour of us just trying to pronounce this entry list. Right, Ryan Whitlock is 7/10 up, 8/10 now as he comes across the line. Ryan Whitlock, he goes third fastest there, joint second with exactly the same time there, 145.603, Dan.
Wow, I mean, let's be honest, of all the times you can have, look at how close that is. Like I said, you got 2 people joint P2 or P3, depending on the way you look at it here, as we got Marvin Blank just going to go across the line. He stays in P12, and then we've got Samir Falk. We've got a second up. Look at that, 2/10 for Samir Falk. He's now put in, that was a 145.258. So again, it's still, no one's broken that 144 magical number yet. However, Falk is getting very, very close indeed, and I think Norton's got to be a little bit worried now.
Yeah, he certainly is. There's still, it was a little bit closer in practice. However, I mean, that is what, 7 drivers within a second of your pole sitter. So that bodes very, very well for the race indeed, as we see Bram de Prater making his way round through Piratella and down towards Aqua Minerale just now. Beautiful, beautiful camera angle as he comes up that hill, and then it's almost a blind entrance into Variante Alta, and it's one that I consistently botch up. I am terrible at this circuit. I end up going over, and so is Bram. A big power slide from the Lamborghini, but he's still got it, I think. We'll see what he's done, because surely he was several tenths of a second up on that lap, Dan. But I think he might have scrubbed it.
Yeah, no, that was going to be a good lap indeed. That was definitely going to be a top 5, potentially even more than that. So yeah, we're going to see what happens when he comes across the line. He's got a little bit of a toe from the car in front. Can't quite see who that is, but what time is that going to be? He still goes third, even with that. Wow, that's for a moment going through out of the Variante chicanes, and he's only now, what's that, 3/10 off pole. So he's got some time in the bag here, definitely.
Alexander Raab goes across the line, just 3/100ths of a second behind Ben Norton, straight into second place, and now this is starting to get very, very serious indeed. This is the number 13 of Mark Bastina. He's 4/10 up, could go into third place. He does go into third place. I'm quite happy with that. That was some on the fly.
That was very good.
There.
That was very good. I like that. We're just being told as well, so Ryan Whitlock is currently half a second up, and if you look how far he is behind Norton, he is 5.6, he's 0.564 of a second behind, so just over half a second. So if he gets another good run again, go through Aqua Minerale, got to keep as much of the curve as you can, not running too wide, and he gets that absolutely spot on. Variante 4, this potentially is going to have one more lap after this. But yes, how he's going to take the Variante chicane. Again, you see he's just using as much curb as he can. Jump it. Wow, I mean, that's probably as much curb as you actually want to take. It's all looking good so far. I don't know how, has he improved on this half a second? He was up at the start of the first half of this lap. We're going to find out. We've just been told as well he's still half a second. So Ravazza is going to be the key, but I'm not too sure. As we see Norton, I think this is going to be a quick lap, David, don't you?
Oh, wow. 1:44.649. My goodness me. Talk about absolutely laying the gauntlet down. That must be so demoralising. Ryan Whitlock improves 4/10, but look at that. Oh, no. Bram de Pertre, he goes up into first place with a 1:44.463, and then Marcel Fusey up into second place. Ben Norton, who was looking all comfortable and cosy in pole position there, has been absolutely relegated down to third place there. It's still not too bad, but he's going to be not too great with that. Michael Hamlet completely bins it on the final one there, and he ran out of fuel. Never mind.
So we're just being told as well that if you look as well, Michael Hamlet is on identical times to, and that is Ryan Whitlock. So look at that, 0.681 behind pole position. But I mean, yeah, like you said, David, Ben went from P1 to 4/10 up to being just under 2/10 down. But, I mean, to be fair though, you look at it. I mean, you look at the times. You've got the top two separated by. I mean, let's be honest. That's nothing, is it? You got 100th of a second. That's absolutely nothing. And then you got a 10. Still not really a lot of time. So, when you look at a 10, you think, the third place, obviously could have been better. I mean, P3 Ben has got to be happy with that, hasn't he?
Oh, for sure. And I think the thing is as well is that it sets them up very, very nicely to the race, and it showed you just what a level of pace that they've got here in these Lamborghinis. I mean, that's 9 drivers within 1 second of that pole time. We're still not finished yet. Several drivers still on laps. Alexander Raab from Raab Racing in the 150. He was 3/10 up, so that would have taken him up to 4th position, but I think he's pretty much scrubbed that one. This is Vyacheslav Volodya in the number 7 Kroyas, 7/10 up, so that would be enough to take Vyacheslav into the top 10, I think, if that comes round the corner. Yeah, interesting to see how that goes round. But a minute left in the cool down time, and this is where there we go, into the top 10. What did I say? I am absolutely on fire.
You're on fire, David, today. Wow,
well, it makes it. I'd be happy just being awake right now, but I'll take that. Muckley 3/10 up. That's going to move him up to P13. P14 he goes down. So slight improvement on that one. But there you go. Wow, right at the end, Dan, it all changed.
It did indeed. Like I said, we were saying, it's amazing how much stuff can change in 10 minutes. I think that's what that's what I like. There's something about short qualifying that it's just almost that sort of like that. It's not panic. It's the wrong word. Panic is the wrong word, but it's just all of a sudden it's just from nothing to 100%. Right, go. You've only got 10 minutes. Off you go. So it's just such a small amount of time, and you've got to make sure that you're on the ball 100% from the word go. And it just throws up, like we have seen here. The pressure, I think, is more. If you've got 20 minutes, 30 minutes of qualifying, pressure is slightly less because you've got more time. But in this sort of instance, you have just got to go at it 100% from the word go. So, yeah, and this is what I do love about short qualifying.
Well, we'll wait to see how that unfolds in the next couple of minutes, though. But Marcel Fouzi takes pole position from Bram Depertre in second place there. Ben Norton in third, and then Alexander Raab in fourth place. It's going to be Mark Bastia in fifth place alongside Ryan Whitlock in sixth. Row 4 is going to be Michael Hamlet, our very own Michael, out there on P7. Samir Falk in P8, and then it's Oscar Saristo in P9. Alongside Vyacheslav Volodya in P10, Gergely Kunzabo in 11th place there, Matt Hubbard in 12th. Alongside row 7 is Chad Dillon and Steve Muckley. Row 8 is Alexander Dowling and Sandro Baccio. Row 9 is Marvin Blank and Mark Gibson, 17th and 18th place. 19th place is Alexander Dudarev alongside Felix Ksef in the 20th position. 21st is Ryan Renoir, and then in 22nd is Artur Starozowski, and then 23rd is Christopher Legriston. So there we go. That is 23 cars that we've got taking part here. We're about a minute away from going green. Dan, what are you expecting?
Wow, I mean, to be fair, like I said, I mean, it's too close to call, isn't it, really? Like I said, you got the top three separated by, like I said, it was less than 0.2 of a second. In a racing scenario when everyone's battling, that is not a lot of time. It seems a lot in qualifying. It's not really going to be a lot in the race, I don't think, because again, the consistency, if you can hit that lap time, you know, it's probably going to be very, very hard to be that consistent 0.5 to 1/10 of a second quicker every single lap. There is going to be some close racing throughout the field, and I'm sure we're going to be having a lot to commentate on, David, to be fair.
Well, there we go. Thank you very much to Kylo in YouTube chat for telling me that it is pronounced Foch, Samir Foch in 8th place there. So thank you very much for that. As if you genuinely know the pronunciations of the names and we're getting them wrong, please do let us know, and we will do our very best to try and say it and not butcher it up anyway. Because I'm Scottish, I get a pass for that sort of thing anyway, and I think that's why half the viewers tend to tune in. Right, green flag lap is underway here at Imola for our first of 3 amazing races here on Super Saturday. You are very welcome, and thank you very much for joining us tonight. There's a lot of things that you could have been doing, and you've chosen to spend your time rather wisely with us. First up is the we've got the Super Trofeo race, then we've got the Porsches, and then we have the 2.4-hour endurance race. The temperatures, Dan, is a little bit concerning. It's a very, very cold or cool 15 degrees Celsius.
I know, yeah, it's very, very cold. We've just been hearing from Mr. Michael Hamlet. The tyres are all of a sudden the temperatures are dropping. So these guys are only going round at a formation lap pace. So they're only going 50, 60, 70 Ks. So they haven't got any heat in the tyres, and they're going to be, as you're probably going to see there, at some point, especially getting through to the laptop, they're going to be frantically trying to warm their tyres up as much as they can. It's currently running on board with, that is Ben Norton. This is Ben Norton's camera view. Again, you can see acceleration, braking, trying to get some residual heat into the tyres as well, using the brakes to heat the rim up, to obviously then heat the carcass of the tyre. So that's one thing they're going to try. You're going to see them weaving as well. So literally, absolutely everything they're going to do is try and get some heat in these tyres. But it's going to be a sketchy first lap, I think. It's going to be a very sketchy first lap. You've got to wait at least 2 laps for these tyres to warm up and to get that race pace that people are going to be used to, as they've just had from qualifying and free practice.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that one pans out, with it being a 30-minute sprint race as well. It really does change the mindset, because obviously we see here at Simgrid, we do see some of the longer endurance races. We'll see one later tonight, for example. But these 30-minute dash for the cash, it's kind of all hell for leather in that first couple of laps, and it's really all make or break on the first couple of corners. I mean, going into Tamburello, I would not be surprised to see several cars go flying.
Well, I think, to be fair, if everyone keeps it nice and clean, the main thing is, like I said, as much as, yeah, it is a sprint race and you've got 30 minutes, like we were saying earlier, you've still got to be tactful, you've still got to be cautious and careful, you've got to make these moves in a position where you're confident to make an overtake, rather than just sort of throw it at the inside and then, you know, almost in a way hoping for the best. So yeah, I'm sure everyone's going to be as calm as they can be and as collective as they can be. Yes, it's going to be a little bit, because everyone's going to bunch up going through Tamburello. That is one of the things we're going to have to watch out for, I suppose, going into the Variante chicane as well. But we are just about to get into the way, I think. Oh, I thought we already went there. David.
Yeah, very, very close indeed. The cars getting their orders to line up double file. It's a long run to the green here at Imola, and some of the cars try to play a little bit of mind games, but they're all managed in the sim. They all have their little marker that we can't see, but the drivers can see, of where their car is supposed to be on this run up to the line. Here we go then, 30 minutes. It's the Super Trofeo race here, race number 1 of Super Saturday here at the Sim Grids, and we are getting ready to go green. The cars jolt about. It's Fusi and Depareter side by side on the front row then, and we are getting ready, and there we go, just coming up to the line now. It is such a long run, because here we go with the green flag finally flies, and that is a brilliant start on the outside. There's still 2 abreast all the way down the pack, down into this first corner, Dan, and it's all been very well behaved.
It has indeed. You're looking at the top right corner of your screen, you've got the aerial camera there, the helicopter shot looks absolutely amazing. Loads of people side by side. At the moment though, the top 4 are on their way, and they are just gone at the moment. Look at the gap they've got already from the from P5 back. So this, you know, the top 4 have already got their little battle going for everyone else. A little bit of scrap in there going through, as you can see in the top right hand corner of your screen. A little bit, almost 3 wide going into the Tosa chicane. That's not going to be ideal. Still 2 wide for a little bit, but it's all starting to bunch up, so those guys got to watch out. Already losing a lot of time here. Yeah, you look at the gap from Norton and Rab. The gap is 0.4 of a second already, and it actually looks to be a little bit longer than that. Apologies, it's 1.2 seconds. So apologies for that. I was getting the timings mixed up. Yeah, a little bit further down the field, look at Hamlet. So we've got currently on the main focus of the screen here. He's doing well still in 7th place. And again, just sort of, you know, patience, getting the tyres, waiting for those to warm up, getting some confidence, and then I'm sure we're going to be seeing some moves made in the next couple of laps or so, once everyone's really found their feet.
For sure. Marcel Fusi still in the lead. Oh, and who was that just went off? Was that Whitlock? So that's Ryan Whitlock, the American, off into the field, and he might as well have a picnic while he's there, because that is going to send him all the way down through the order there. But it's still Marcel Fusi in the lead from Bram de Petre in 2nd place there, just half a second behind them. And that leading group now is a group of 5 cars, because at the back that is going to be Bastida in the number 13, Mark Bastida, that is caught up to the end of that there. And I'd be interested to see if there was any contact that was involved in that one. So there is our very own Michael Hamlet just behind, and he's had a solid start. He's had a very good solid start, no dramas, no issues. Just pick off some of the cars one by one.
Yeah, it's very true. But, you know, P6 again, obviously from Whitlock's unfortunate spin out of Variante. Yeah, I think, to be fair, it was doing really well. You've got the Bastida only a couple of tenths ahead. We've got a replay here, and this was indeed of Whitlock. So we're going to see a little bit of a gap there. So I don't necessarily think contact was made. I reckon it's going to be a bit too hard over the curbs on the inside. Yeah, again, cold tyres over the curbs, clipped some grass, and then the car was gone almost before pretty much, to be fair, before I think even the real exit of the chicane. I think jumping over that curb, especially couple that with cold tyres, it was never going to end well, unfortunately. So yeah, a little bit unfortunate for Whitlock. He's all the way down. I'm just looking. He's all the way down in P18. He has got the pace, I'm sure. So we're going to see some positions. He is going to gain some positions, I am sure. But I think it's more of a damage limitation for him now at this point.
Yeah, we'll see how that one pans out. But 5th place of Mark Bastida, just ahead of Michael Hamlet. Samir Foch in 7th place there, and Samir all over the back of Michael. Michael getting a little bit of breathing room, and Samir actually coming under pressure now from Saristo, from Oscar Saristo, the number 9 car, just behind him in 8th place. So one thing I love about this track and these cars is that it's like a pendulum. It goes back and forth. One lap we'll see 2 cars fighting out between themselves, and then the next lap the car behind will drop off and have to defend itself from the car trying to get up. So we've got 2 separate groups going on right now, Dan, but that lean group of Fuzi, Depreter, Norton and Rab are absolutely away right now.
They are indeed. Again, you just look at this gap here. They are at the moment on their own, as we see. So yeah, this is Rab and this is Norton Burr. But I think Saristo actually was looking pretty racy at the moment. So he's in P8. Obviously, there's a battle by the looks of it, I believe, for P5. It is indeed, and that is coming up now. So you've got Bastida almost, I think, bunching this pack up here. So if you look as well, almost going 2 by 2, there's almost like 2 little battles going on. Obviously, a great shot there. This is the rear view cam of Bastida's car, the number 13. Again, Hamlet, I think, again, he's just, biding his time here, I think, seeing where potentially you've got Bastida's maybe a little bit slower, where he goes slightly offline as well. So it's all about patience here. But just further back, you've got, I believe that was, what we say, that was, is it Foch or Foch? I can't remember. Foch, that was it. Apologies, Foch. So we've got Foch and Saristo here for P7 and P8. So it's almost like 2 smaller battles going on within this group. As I say that, whoa, that was very, very close indeed from Foch.
And we've also got a car off in the gravel on the right-hand side, Dan, just that in the background, that yellow car that you can see off in the car, that is Ben Norton. He was up in 4th place. He lost the place from Alexander Rabb. He started in 3rd, lost the place to Alexander Rabb, and I wonder if he's just overcooked it at that chicane again. So that's 2 cars that we've seen caught out there.
Yeah, I just think as well, it's just a little bit... it just looks to be potentially, we're hopefully going to see replay in a second, but it could again just been a little bit more curb, too much curb on the exit. I don't think the entry curb is the problem. It's more so the exit, as we've got here. This is going to be a potential move here for Hamlet. He's going to go up the inside, going into Tamburello, and that was textbook, wasn't it? That was just up the inside, last of the late breakers, and off he goes. So Hamlet inherits now P4, obviously, because Norton has had his small incident. He's now in P11. But yeah, textbook move there from Hamlet. That was really, really good stuff.
Yeah, that was fantastic move from Michael there. You could see that he was feeling backed up by Mark Bastida, the number 13 there. But this is the battle for 12th, 13th and 14th place. That is, of course, Steve Muckley in the 42. As we see, that was the number 22 of Marvin Blank trying to have a look up the inside of Alexander Dowling. Didn't really come to anything right now. But also have a look at the gap to the leader now. The gap between Marcel Fuzi and Bram de Perche in 2nd place there was down as little as 1/10 of a second, but it's eked out a little bit there, so we'll have to keep our eye on that. But Marcel's going to be doing the Porsche Cup as well, I think, later on after this one, so great to see these drivers getting involved in all of the different races that we've got going tonight, Dan.
Yeah, it is indeed. It's very, very true. Although one thing they will have to be a little bit... Oh, no, we've got another car off there. I'm not entirely sure who that is. That looks like the number 5 car. And that was Alexander Pawlik. That is... that is, actually, I believe...
Sandro Baccio.
Sandro Baccio. Apologies there for the wrong car call from me. As we got side-by-side action, that was, again, couldn't quite see who that was. That looked like the number 42 car of Steve Muckley going side-by-side, going through into the Ravazza. And whoa, that's very, very close indeed. How no contact was made, I have no idea. That was Alexander Dowling, who's lost out big time on there. So you've got Alexander Dudarev. We've got lots of Alexes in this field today. But all of a sudden, this battle for I believe this is P12, also on the battle, has gone very, very close. How are they keeping these cars in a straight line with how much they're driving on the grass? Almost like a rallycross stage at the moment. I didn't know Imola had a rallycross track. But these guys seem to be making one at the moment. But yeah, battle for P13 is raging on. It's getting ever closer. If these guys keep battling, though, all of a sudden this 3-car battle is going to turn into a 5-car battle.
We're going to have to get John Anderson of Gladiators fame on the case here, guys at bay, because this is getting absolutely brutal with these 4 cars. You had 2 of them. Oh, there's contact, 2 cars spin, and there's an absolute melee at the back of the field. 3 cars, 4 cars, 5 cars caught up in this, and that car is going to have to wait there to get back on. I think that is it. Tell me that's not. Oh, that's Alexander Dudarev, who was left just sitting in no man's land at the exit of the corner, and. I think was that Aqua Minerale that all happened on.
I believe that looked to be the Tosa chicane. Sorry, the Tosa hairpin. Do you know what it looked like? I can't remember who that was in front. I couldn't see who that was in front, but I believe the car that spun in front obviously caused Dudarev to then back off. Obviously, he was reacting to the car ahead, obviously that had that spin on the exit, and then obviously as he backed off. Again, I can't remember again for apologies, but we're actually hopefully going to see a replay of what happens here exactly. So we have got, and that was in the So, actually, no,
it was tandem synchronized.
It was tandem, wasn't it? I thought it was a reaction. I thought Dudarev was reacting to Lamborghini ahead that spun. That wasn't the case, though. He actually lost it on his own accord. So interesting there. Looks to be obviously slightly offline as well, defending there. So. Again, you've got to try and compensate for that. If something like that happens, you're offline, you've got to compensate for that. You've got to change your braking, your steering, which is throttle input. Everything has to change. So, that would be unfortunate through there. But that was a racing incident, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see that replay again, because it can actually tell you exactly what's happened. In fact, here we go. What's that? If we can get that replay back later on, I think what's actually happened is both those drivers have got their brake balance set up quite far to the front, and the car behind has seen that car in front spinning, has slammed on the brakes, and the rear end has just spun out at exactly the same time as the car in front. And these cars are fast and they're nimble, but they will bite you. And it just looks here. So here we go. That's just him recovering. But that's exactly what it looked like when we saw it from that helicopter view, Dan. It did look like the first car went off and he would have just been in the immediate vision of the driver behind.
That's very, very true, I suppose, to be fair. Quick reaction then from Dudarev, because like you said, they tandemed drifting there. So interesting. But we have got some side-by-side action going here. This is between, Ligeston, and I'm trying to. That was the number 243 car. That is Felix Sheff. So these guys are battling again. A bit of side-by-side action. I believe that is. So Felix has got in front of. That was Christopher there going through into the Variante chicane. All seems to be okay. Both running a little bit wide, but that's not going to cause them any penalties or anything. No track limit warnings, I don't think. So that was all good. So again, a textbook move going through there. Very, very nice indeed. And this is the replay here. This is an onboard replay, I believe, of this is Dudarev. So we're going to see exactly, I believe, to be fair, David, I didn't actually think of what you were saying there, but I believe this is going to be pretty much exactly what you said. So the reaction just caused that car to spin around, because obviously you panic at that stage, don't you? So he is offline. Yeah, I think, again, you're right. It was just off balance. He reacted to the car ahead, and obviously the rest is history, as they say.
Yeah, I might change my opinion on that. I think he maybe just botched it himself, completely unaided by anyone else. But it is what it is. This is the battle then at the tail end of the pack here. Now, here's what I want to know. What has happened to the number 11 of Gergely Gonzalo? Because he was fairly high up the pack to start off with. I believe he was around about, maybe 6th or 7th, if I remember rightly. And look at that, he's all the way down in 20th place. So I wonder if he got caught up in the lap 2 shenanigans. This is Oscar Saristo, though, for Lightspeed Esports in the number 10 machine, looking absolutely resplendent in that white and red livery, chasing down Mark Mastida, who has pretty much started going backwards after releasing Michael Hamlet into that 4th place. And Michael is fairly caught in no man's land because he can't get up to the leading group right now. Alexander Raab, Bram de Perrottet and Marcel Puzzi in the lead.
We do have a replay here, and I believe this was the number 11. So that was, you were saying, that was Gonzalo. I think he got helped round a little bit there by the looks, and he decides to do a pirouette and stuff. Look at that. I mean, for the crowd Not best for track position, but for the crowd, they're definitely pleased with that. But yeah, that looked like he got helped round a little bit from Variante in the Variante chicane.
You hate to see it, you really do hate to see it. Ryan Renoir in the Notice Me Senpai 732 machine. Great to see some humour getting injected into this evening. Chasing down Dudarev right now as they're coming through the first half of the circuit here. 16 and a half minutes left to go. Can you believe we're almost halfway through this first race?
I know. Look at it. I mean, to be fair, with the action that we've had, it has gone quick, isn't it? Oh dear. And I'm sure the last 15 minutes are going to absolutely fly by as well. A little bit wide there from Renoir in the very, very bright yellow and pink Lamborghini there. But yeah, this is again on board. So this is the battle for P22, which is still ready. It's great to see, isn't it, David, as well, that we've got battling happening all the way through the field. Even, like I said, down in P22, we've still got a battle going on. I think, looking at it though, I don't know whether it's setup based or something like that, or whether it's just confidence in the car at the moment. But feel it. Look at the drive that he had out of the Tosa hairpin compared to Christopher there.
I'm still kind of distracted by Ryan Renoir's livery on that thing. That is an absolutely cursed car, if ever I saw one. That is some obsessive anime. Oh, and that is Dudarev going very, very wide, and he's just cost himself that place. Dudarev goes down to 17th place and almost drops down to Dowling as well. But yeah, that is hard lines. It's so easy to do into that corner, isn't it?
It is, because I think as well, because again, they're jumping over the chicane, and you're jumping over, it goes a little bit wide there as well, you're jumping over the chicane. I think it can, if you're not careful, it can almost push the car wide. If you jump over it a little bit too much, one of the inherent things with ACC that I found is if you hit the curbs and really jump over the curbs at the wrong angle, it can just sort of like, essentially you get a massive amount of lift at the front, and it just drifts you wide. So I'm guessing that could have been a thing there. Potentially, this is Renoir's tactic here, so he could be using this livery. But, as I said, this is Ben Norton trying to move back up the field, so he's currently in P13. So he was in P18 when he spun. A little bit sideways there on the exit. That was of, I'm trying to think of that was the Variante Villeneuve. So that was the chicane going through there. Wow, this is very, very close indeed. This is Dowling trying to go around the outside of Dudarev again. So Alexander Dudarev dropping back ever more. And look at Volodya. So Volodya is probably going to try and have a look on Dudarev as well, because he wants to capitalise on this opportunity. At the moment, Dudarev is outside of position. He's probably not comfortable where he is at the moment. He's been overtaken a couple of times. He's a bit out of sync, I think, with himself. So this, I think, Volodya needs to capitalise on this and try and get past him as quick as he can so that the cars ahead don't pull away from him.
Yeah, they're being led in that train by Ryan Renoir right now. A little bit late on the brakes into AKM Rally, up the hill then, and then it's on the run up to the chicane. And this is where we see, again, time and time again, so many cars getting it wrong. It's fine to take some curb there, but it's the second curb. If you take too much of that and have your foot on the throttle, you are going to be in for a bad time. But 30 minutes 55 seconds left to go in the race. It's still Marcel Fouzi by a second in the lead over Bram Depatré. Then it's Alexander Raab in third place, and then Michael Hamlet, our very own Michael Hamlet, into fourth place. Mark Bastida in fifth place as well. So I think that's starting to settle down at the top. And all of the action right now is this battle for 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th and 19th place. It's a 5-car train right now, and Ryan Renoir in that resplendent livery. I've got to be honest, do you think he's trying to disguise that car as a Pokemon?
I mean, to be fair, it could be a tactful sort of way of distracting his fellow drivers, because it is. I mean, you look at that, you have to do a double take in the rearview mirror, I'm sure, when you can see that car, because it's a striking livery, I think, is the best way to put it. Would you agree, David? I think is the word.
I would agree that it is a striking livery, but I still say that it does look remarkably like Jigglypuff.
Do you know what? That was a Pokemon, wasn't it? I'm not. I've never watched Pokemon. Is that bad?
Are you not down with the kids?
I'm not down with the kids, as it turns out. I was more of a Yu-Gi-Oh person myself.
No.
That was it, error. Oh, we see there. Sorry, we've got a race going on, haven't we, David? So that was Norton actually going a little bit wide. So he's up into P12, 3 tenths behind Foch at the moment. So that was Samir Foch. So he's trying very, very hard. Is a top 10 on the cards for him? Potentially. I mean, to be fair, you look at 12 minutes left, you've got 4.3 seconds between Whitlock and Foch. So depending how quick Norton can get by him, potentially we could see that gap come down again, depending on the pace that Norton has at this current time. But you can tell he's trying so hard. I saw the conservation has just gone out the window completely, and he is now just 110% trying to make up as many positions as he can.
Samir Foch, though, that last lap time, 1:54.456. That is not a fast lap time. Indeed, he goes a bit faster that last lap round, though, 1:46.461, but it's still not as fast as Ben Norton. And also have a look in the background there, because I think that Mark Gibson is going to have a little bit of a say in this as well. In the 101 car, you can just see him getting ever so closer in the distance there, with 11.5 minutes to go. What a wonderful camera angle this is. A huge thank you to Mike Yao from Simply Race for constantly surprising us with these amazing treats, and the lick of the flame on the did shift. Oh, and he's gone wide. He's absolutely binned it into the corner there, cooked the brakes, and that hands Ben Norton that place on a silver platter, Dan.
It does indeed, yeah. Just a little bit again. You spoke about it beforehand, Dave, before the race, didn't you? Going into that Tosha hairpin, it's very dim, and it's very easy to outbrake yourself. Exactly what happened there. And yeah, Ben Norton was just like, well, thank you very much. I won't have to battle anymore. Slips on the inside, and then off he goes. So I'm sure we're going to see that gap open up very quickly. Indeed, but the gap this particular lap was just under 5 seconds between Norton and Whitlock. Is that going to come down in 10 minutes? So what, maybe 5 laps or so? We're going to have to see. Anything can happen. Like I said, we saw that in qualifying. That was 10 minutes worth of qualifying. You know, we've got 10 minutes left of the race. Anything can happen. But currently on your main focus is Dudarev. Look, and he's lost it again. That was Dudarev going through on the entry this time. You could see how much he just got over the curb.
Dan, hang on a second. What has happened to Fuzzy? Fuzzy has lost the lead, and Bram Depetre is into the lead. Marcel Fuzzy has been dominating this race so far, and he's down in 3rd place.
He has indeed. Yes, we're just looking. So we're just being told as well, his last lap was in the 150. So with a spin, obviously somewhere. I don't think he wasn't racing anyone, so that there was, there wouldn't have been any contact because he wasn't racing anyone for position. So it was obviously just a mistake on his own accord, not ideal at all. So we've got action happening at the front. Currently, action still happening. This is the battle for P16. We're going to go side by side going through. We're just actually being told as well, Variante Alta was where Fusey lost it, and that is Dowling going to try. He tried to go around the outside going through into Tamburello. Was never going to work in a million years because you knew Dudarev was just going to shut the door straight away. So Dudarev has now inherited P16, and off he goes. The gap is already, that's well over a second, as we've got a replay here. And this is indeed Fusey. Is it? Oh, it is again. It's Alta. No. It's Variante. It's Variante Alta. Again, it's almost a carbon copy of what Whitlock did within the first 2 laps.
He's very lucky, though, that he can just jump straight back onto the tail of that train. So anybody else, that would have been a disastrous moment. But with 9 minutes left, and the fact that he is essentially 4 seconds off of the lead right now, he could very easily still win this race. So yeah, that would be crazy if he actually pulls that one out of the bag. This is Chad Dillon, the number 1 car in 7th place right now, trying to catch up to Oscar Saristo just ahead of him in the number 9 as they come across the line to start their next lap. 8.5 minutes left just now, and it's such a wonderful run this along the run down to Tamburello. You know, early onto the brakes, and then you just want to let the car drift in. You don't want to touch it. Oh, there we go. Almost contact between the two of them. Chad Dillon takes that place, but I think Saristo is going to have the inside line.
Yeah, yes, indeed. They're still going to go side by side, I think. Yes, we have Chad Dillon has to back out of that, but he gave it a good old go. He tried to capitalise on the opportunity as much as he can, but look how he seems to be. You can see as well, as Saristo is now just slightly off balance here. He needs to get his composure back nice and quickly, because otherwise something like this is going to happen. Almost, we see Dillon there was no contact made, but he almost forces the door open. Still doesn't quite get the move done. Look at I think the traction that Saristo had going on the exit obviously seems to be some grip, more so. Obviously, on the race line, there is more grip generally than where Dillon was placed in going out of the Tosa hairpin. But that was very, very good indeed. Really good stuff. Really close racing from these guys as well, as we see again Dillon closing up that gap. look at that. This is going to be a very, very good move here. Is it going to be a move going into Variante Alta? I think these guys can go side by side. Two does not go into one, chaps, at the best of times, let alone into a chicane like that. All that, and absolutely, that wasn't commentator's curse. I call that. That was just unfortunate. Yeah, two cars don't go into one there.
Well, I normally have a plethora of words at my disposal for commentating, and I'm absolutely lost for them. Right, remember on lap 1, Ryan Whitlock spinning out. Ryan Whitlock is now up into P9 at the moment. So I don't know how that's happened, but that's yeah. So we'll see how that goes, because I'm hearing that he might have improved as well and gone up to P7.
Oh, that was someone in the background spinning.
Oh dear, we'll check that. Was that Hubbard?
That could very well have been. Yeah,
it is. Watch him drop down the order there. What is it about that chicane that, I mean, you'd think, Dan, that they see one car doing it and they maybe learn their lesson?
Well, potentially. I mean, but it's hard to get it, it's hard to, I think when you've been practicing it for so long, it's hard to get out of the rhythm. It's hard to, especially going over there, because you've almost got to put yourself in a position where you get your car set up and, from testing I've done rhythm, but you almost put your car into the line that you want to go. You're almost a bit of a passenger through the second half of it, because again, you're jumping over that curve so violently that you have that front lift, and it almost just like puts the car in a position where you can't really do much, and then you have to sort of let the car settle down. It's just, if you're slightly offline, it really can seem to go. As we've got a replay here, and this indeed, I'm trying to think who this is a replay of. That's number 27. That was Hubbard. That was Hubbard. So the incident that we had, oh dear. So that was just bad from worse. He got just put in the wrong position and got, that was not ideal. Not ideal from Hubbard then. That went from bad to worse in the space of about 5 seconds.
Chat, we need to get some rather large Fs on the go. We've had our first retirement tonight. Sandro Baccio, the number 5 car, has thrown in the towel and absolutely given up, so if we can get some Fs in chat for that. Felix Sefno makes the move over, I think that was Volodya in the number 7 car. We've got a replay here, and this is side by side into Variante Alta. Oh, that is so unfortunate. It wasn't deliberate, because the white and red car just obviously over-rotated and spun into the other car there. Oh, we've got another car spinning out there.
This is just I think this is just commentator's curse at the Variante Alta chicane, isn't it? It's just almost all of the incidents that we've seen have all been at Variante Alta. So are we going to see any more? We've got just under 5 minutes left. Are we going to see any more? I think at the rate we've seen them, there potentially is going to be 1 or 2 more that we're going to see. At the moment, though, this is the battle for P3. So, sorry, this is the battle for P2, actually. Apologies. So this is Rab against Fusey, and again, a great onboard shot going through into Minerali. Wow, that is a big closing gap then. A little bit slower on than the exit, so you gain time through the midsection, then you lose it on the exit there, because you need to get that good trap position and the good exit speed there. But look again how much he closes up. Wow, Rab was almost looked like he came to a stop through there. Whether, again, like we were talking about, actually, David, is he a little bit cautious? He's seen Whitlock, he's seen Norton, he's seen lots and lots of people that have spun at the outer chicane. Is he being a little bit more cautious now? Obviously, we didn't see Fusey make any of that sort of cautious move going through there. So could that be something that we're going to see now for the remainder?